Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by quitxz on Wattpad. Now let's start. This place is covered in germs. You thought to yourself as you placed your hands inside 2 black medical gloves and pumped a bit of hand sanitizer on them, making your way to the gates towards the principal's office. Your family wasn't well known in the hero world. Heck, they were more or less hardly heroes at all. They had retired early in their prime and chose to settle in early when they first had you. You refused the idea of being a hero because why? It's disgusting, too much work, you sweat too much and it's too many germs. But your family friend who happened to work at UA somehow convinced your parents to attend the school under his supervision. You were a transfer student. You settled to go to a normal public school to just study and get a normal job. But All Might was quick and decided he would try to convince you into becoming a hero. This is so bothersome. You thought as you knocked onto the principal's office. Come in. You heard as you pushed open the door. 𝐻𝗚𝗏. I haven't seen you since you were a child. Nizu said, hopping off of his desk to walk towards you. You flinched back as you took out a small bottle of cleansing alcohol and sprayed it in front of you. Disgusting germs. You thought at furrowed your eyebrows. Still the same as a child, huh? He laughed to himself before walking back to his desk, handing you a few papers. You're in class 1A and since you didn't take the entrance exam through recommendations you will have a practice test today. But knowing you'll pass. He said. You nodded as you sprayed the paper a couple times before hesitantly taking it out of his hands and walked out of his office. Ugh, this place is filthy. Who cleans this place? You thought as you rubbed your arms with your hands shivering. You made your way to the class. Pulling up your mask once more, you scowled underneath it, dreading the amount of germs you would be making contact with. Especially with other people. You shivered at the thought. Once more spraying cleaning alcohol on the door handle, you opened the door. All eyes were on you as you opened the door. Aizawa looked at you with a dead eye as you looked at him with the same lifeless expression. You're the new student, he said. You nodded as your eyebrows furrowed. Too many people. Disgusting. You thought to yourself. A class, this is L/NY/N, he stated lazily as you gave a small head bow. TCH, another DMN extra. A ash blonde boy said as he glared towards your direction. Y/N, would you like to introduce Dash? Before Aizawa could say anything, you had already started to walk towards an empty desk at the back of the classroom, seeing that it was the only available seat. As soon as you got to your table, you immediately scowled as a disgusted look went across your face. You took out a small bottle of rubbing alcohol and spilled it all over the table and seat. Taking out an alcohol wipe, you started to clean your desk in the middle of class. W-, a red-haired boy said, turning to look at you with curious eyes. Sighing, L/N here is a germaphobe, just give her some time and leave her alone and let's continue the lesson. Aizawa said as he went back to the board. A dual-haired boy turned to you, watching your every move as you went up and down the table to clean over and over again. He was going to lie if he said he wasn't a bit curious. Finally, you had fully cleaned your desk. You weren't completely satisfied, but it was decent. Thankfully, you had your gloves on and your mask. You took a seat and started to fish out your supplies for school. TCH, no one cleans this DMN school, it's disgusting. You thought. Soon class was over and you started to pack your things to leave, but you were stopped by a green-haired boy as his friends. Hi. I'm Midoriya Izuku. The green-haired boy said, reaching out a hand. You stared at him and grimaced. As if you'd ever touch his hand. You just stood there before you looked back down to place your books back into your bag. He retracted his hand, remembering you were a germaphobe. His face was flushed from embarrassment. I'm Uraraka Ochako. A bubbly brown-haired girl said with a smile. I'm Tenya Ida. A blue-haired male said, chopping the air with his hand. You nodded in acknowledgement as you turned to place your bag on your arm. L/N-san. You turned to see a nervous green-haired boy fumbling with his fingers. What's your quirk? He asked. You looked at him with emotionless eyes before you walked to Aizawa, which grabbed his attention. "Oh right 𝐿/N you have to take your test huh?" he said looking at the time. "If you guys want you can watch her do her exam," he said as you started to walk out the class. Everyone had decided to group up in a room as the camera monitored you. You were currently tugging on your medical gloves with new ones and tugging up your mask once more. You took out a small bottle of cleaning alcohol and sprayed it all around your new PE clothes and the area around you. "She really is a germaphode," 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 deadpanned as he watched through the screen. "𝐶𝐶 she's just another extra. She can't defeat me." 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 grumbled, not bothering to look at the screen. "You'll be surprised," 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 stated. The test had begun. A group of robots made their way towards you, but you were too busy spraying yourself that you failed to notice. Finally done, you turned your head to see 3 robots coming your way. "Ugh, so troublesome." You sighed underneath your mask and you started to remove the gloves on your hands. A robot came to smash down on you, but you quickly jumped up and dodged it. You flipped in the air and placed the tip of your finger on the robot's head. It instantly shut down and a surge of energy coursed through your body. "Ugh, now I have to use it." You internally groaned as you moved on to the next robot. You touched the next 2 robots as they collapsed on the ground. You dusted yourself off as you walked down towards the next robots. Back in the observation room, the class was shocked. "What the hell happened?" 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 exclaimed as they just watched a robot collapse at the touch of your finger. 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who was silent during the beginning, listened, as the new girl piqued his interest. "She barely did anything and they just stop," Kirishima said. "So manly." Aizawa sighed as he looked at the screen. "This is 𝐿/N's quirk," he said. "What exactly is her quirk?" Midoriya asked as the rest of the class watched intently. "Drainage." They turned around to see All Might at the door with a big smile on his face. "All Might," the class exclaimed. "Ha. I see you've met young 𝐿/N," he stated looking at the screen as you kept knocking down robots. "What is drainage?" Mina asked. Young 𝐿/N's quirk is specifically energy drainage. With just a touch she is able to take the energy of anything or anyone and use it as her own, he said as the class listened intently. "She has the ability to absorb your attacks and convert it to energy and use it as her own, which she uses to create her own energy," he said pointing at the screen. You had obtained enough energy as a couple robots laid down at your feet. "Ugh, disgusting," you thought, dusting the dust off your clothes. As you were busy with yourself, you felt the vibration of the ground as the 0-pointer robot made its way towards you. Sighing, you raised your right hand, palm facing the robot, as a small purple orb of energy started to form within your expanded palm. It expanded until it was the size of a basketball. "This should be enough," you thought as you flicked your wrist. The orb left your hand and slowly started to expand larger and larger until it knocked off the robot's head off. The robot's body went limp and fell onto the ground. The head slowly bounced as it landed an inch away from your feet. You thought as you took out a spray bottle and started to spray it out like crazy all over your body. "Gross, gross, 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 gross," you repeatedly thought as you frantically tried to clean yourself over and over again. After a minute of spraying, it wasn't completely satisfying, but it was enough as you tugged up the mask once more and tugged on a clean pair of medical gloves before you made your way out of the exam area towards your bag to completely clean off. "What?" the class exclaimed as they saw you leave the exam area. "How did she do that? How much energy can she take? Does she have any drawbacks?" Midoriya asked All Might. "Oh, she's so manly," Kirishima exclaimed. "She still can't beat me," 𝐒𝐮𝐿 said. "Wah, she's so cool. She defeated them too easily," Mina said. All right, Aizawa said, trying to calm down his class. 𝐿/N should be coming this way for her results, so you can ask her questions then." The class nodded and patiently waited for your arrival. In the locker room, you immediately shivered as you started to peel off the sweat clothes off of you. With a disgusted face, you dropped it down on the floor and started to head towards the showers. "Ugh, even the bathrooms are disgusting," you thought as you scrubbed the walls of the shower room before you took a shower. After the shower, you made your way to the observation room to get your result. Obviously you knew you passed. It was honestly child's play at this point. Your quirk was in a sense unstoppable. You never had trouble passing tests and defeating people you fought. It was in a sense kind of boring to know that you'd never have an actual challenge. But again, you didn't want to touch anyone anyways cause everyone was gross. The only people you could tolerate was one distant friend and your parents. They were the cleanest to you, so you didn't mind them touching you. Sighing, you opened the door, only to be bombarded by a group of people as soon as you entered. Oh my god. 𝐿/N. You were so cool. You were like boop. And they all just fell. You barely even touched them. You could barely comprehend what was going on as your mind went into shock. If these people don't get their disgusting germs away from me, I swear to God I'm going to dash. Okay, enough, give her some space. 𝐿𝐮𝐦𝐸 said as he tried to create some space between you and the students. You exhaled a shaky breath as you took out another spray bottle and sprayed it all around you. You gave a grimaced face to the other students before moving backwards further away from the students and slowly making your way to 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐬. He looked at you hold a bottle of hand sanitizer. He knew what was going to happen, so he held out both of his hands to you and you pumped out a bit as he started to rub his hands. You tugged up the mask a bit more as you pumped some on your hands and started to rub your hands as well. Good job 𝐿/, and you passed. He said as he pat your shoulder. Your body tensed up a bit, then relaxed at his words. You nodded your head then without glancing at anyone. You left the door. Ugh, this place, this disgusting. How am I going to survive this for the next 3 years? You thought. What? She just left. 𝐬𝐻𝐼𝐻 said as the door closed. She doesn't talk much. 𝐿𝐮𝐻𝐸 stated, rubbing the back of his head. Do you know why? Kirishima asked. Not really. If anything, people would assume she's mute, which isn't the case. 𝐿𝐮𝐸 stated, placing a hand to his chin to think. Last time she spoke was back in middle school. What? A couple of the students exclaimed. She hasn't spoken since middle school. Mina asked. Yeah, and it was only to her parents too. 𝐻𝐻𝐸𝐻 said, looking dead as ever. But she has a really cool quirk. Midoriya said. What's so cool about it anyways? She's just another extra. Bakugo said. In all honesty, he was a bit nervous seeing you do your test. Who wouldn't be nervous? You were literally draining them of their energy and using it against them. Bet she could beat you. Mina teased. Oh hell yeah. Kaminari said. The F hell no. I'd beat her in a heartbeat. Bakugo yelled back. Now settle down. 𝐿𝐮𝐸𝐻 said, trying to calm down the class. We didn't get to see how she looked like though. Ida stated. You're right. She kept on wearing that mask all the time. 𝐬𝐻𝐼𝐻 said. Probably cause she's a germaphobe. 𝐶𝐻 stated. Teach weak. She's scared of little germs, Bakugo said. Well, it is cause of her germaphobia, but also cause of something else. 𝐿𝐮𝐸𝐻 said. He had known you for a while, ever since you were a child. Your parents were family friends with him, and he, as well as other pro heroes, would come to visit you often, though your nature was always quiet. Didn't speak much even as a baby. Never cried and always wanted to clean something or someone. He chuckled lightly, remembering how you would always force someone to take a bath before touching you. But after an incident a couple years back, you had gotten much quieter, to the point where you didn't speak to anyone. Only simple nods and gestures. Hey, I have a favor for you guys. 𝐿𝐮𝐸𝐻 said. The class looked at him. What is it, 𝐿𝐼𝐻? Midoriya asked. Young 𝐿/N doesn't really want to be a hero. He said. What? Why not? Being a hero is everything. Ida said. Yeah, and with a quirk like hers she could do so much. Midoriya said. 𝐿𝐼𝐻 chuckled. He wished you would show this much enthusiasm, but you didn't. You hardly did. I know, but she finds it bothersome and, in her definition, gross. He said, putting quotation marks in the air. Everyone deadpanned. And to be honest, I had to drag her here to even attend this school. Before, she was just going to a normal school to become a normal citizen. He trailed off. I hope that you guys will be able to change her heart. Please, she has a lot of potential and I want her to do the best that she can. And so here you are, being surrounded by a group of students who are invading your personal space, trying to get to know you before class starts. To say that you were panicking is an understatement. You were practically dying. Oh my god, the amount of germs. You thought as you didn't bother listening to the people around you. You quickly took the bottle of cleansing alcohol and sprayed it all over yourself, trying to cleanse your body from the amount of germs that were starting to get in your way. Hey 𝐿/𝐿, what do you dash? Before the brown-haired girl could say anything, you slammed your gloved hands onto the desk, everyone's attention. You narrowed your eyes at the people around you. Slowly you took out a piece of paper that had a couple of words. Leave me alone. It wrote. A dejected look crossed the faces of the group of students as they went back to their respective seats. Although harsh, you could care less. You never really gotten well with people, and if anything, you didn't make any friends. The only so-called friends you would make were people who just wouldn't leave you alone for God's sake, no matter how many times you pushed them away. You didn't need friends, you only had one, and that was more than enough. You didn't come here to make friends who just came because your stupid family friend forced you to. Sighing, you leaned back onto your chair, closing your eyes and waiting for the bell to ring. We're taking a trip today to the unforeseen simulation joint, 𝐬𝐬𝐴 stated. It's a training facility located about 5 minutes away from here, and we will be taking a school bus. Disgusting. That thing is probably filled with germs. Who knows how many people have been on that thing? You grimace thinking about the amount of filth that you would have to clean. The USJ will help you train on how to act during a disaster. Make sure to change into your costumes and meet me outside. You can wear your 𝗧𝗧𝗟𝗘 if you like, he said as he went out the door. You rushed out of the room quickly to change into your costume so that you wouldn't have to change with the others. That place will be so crowded if I change with the other girls. You furrowed your eyebrows as you made your way to the locker room. It wasn't much. A tight, short-sleeved turtleneck that ended at your mid-stomach and some tight briefs that had a utility belt where you kept your cleaning supplies and a couple extra masks and gloves. On your hands you had fingerless gloves while your fingers were bandaged. See Chapter 1 for reference. Your only drawback was that sometimes the skin on your fingers would break, but that was really it. The only other was that you had to release the energy you collected at some point, but that wasn't really a drawback, it was just something you found bothersome. Finally done, you quickly rushed out of the room before the other girls came and made your way towards the bus to Great 𝐬𝐴. He turned around to see you walk towards the bus. He internally chuckled. He knew this would happen because of your germaphobia. Sighing, you made your way there next to him, tugging up your mask a bit more. You took out a small bottle of hand sanitizer and pumped a bit on your gloves and rubbed them in. Then you looked up at 𝐬𝐴, who held out his hands, and he did the same. This was almost like a ritual between you two. You then took out a small notepad and wrote down something to show to him. Please 𝐬𝐴, let me sit next to you. I don't think I'll be able to handle their germs. You shoved the notepad to his face. He leaned back to read them properly and sighed, nodding his head. You let out a sigh of relief and placed a hand on your beating heart. You really haven't changed at all, have you? He asked. You shrugged your shoulders. Why don't you talk anymore? You wrote down something on the paper. It's too much work. He deadpanned at your response. To be fair, he knew how you were. You barely put any effort into anything because you knew no matter what you did, you'd do better than most. Everything you did was bothersome to you, no matter how small the task. The only thing you put effort into was cleaning. Soon the rest of the class arrived. They were a bit shaken up since they saw you arrive first, but they brushed it off as they walked towards the bus. Everyone get into the bus in an orderly fashion, Ida stated, chopping his hands dramatically in the air. You walked past him and entered the bus, not caring for the ruckus he was making outside, saying that it was rude to ignore someone. You quickly chose a spot and immediately started to spray and pour cleaning alcohol onto the seat, floor, and window. After a few minutes, people started to trail in as they gave you a couple looks. What the heck, clean freak, what are you doing? Bakugo exclaimed. You didn't pay attention to him as you just kept cleaning. Don't ignore me, he exclaimed. You sighed to yourself, not even caring that he was yelling behind you. This should be good enough, you thought as you sat down on the window seat, to which 𝐬𝐴 soon trailed in, taking the seat next to you. You sighed, closing your eyes and leaning on the window. You should really try to make some friends here, 𝐬𝐴. You opened an eye to look at 𝐬𝐴. You snorted in response and closed it back. I'm serious. I want you to have a normal life, with friends, adventures, and more, he stated. You took out the notepad. I don't need friends. They're too much work. Then put in the work, he said. You just huffed under your mask and shoved the notepad back in your pocket. You didn't need friends, they were just dead weight to you. And just another thing you had to clean. All you wanted to do was live a quiet life without anyone and stay clean. It wasn't too much to ask. I know it's because of him. This time your full attention was on the male next to you. You grimaced as you clenched your fists in your hands. Look, everyone knows what he did was wrong, but you need to get over it. Not everyone is like him. These kids. He looked back at the students laughing and talking to each other. They're different and I know it. They'd never do that to you ever. You grunted in response. Why did he have to bring up him at this time? There was no need to. He was dead to you. Just try, please. He placed a hand on your shoulder. You flinched but then relaxed at the warm hand. Sighing, you just shrugged in response at him and continued to stare out the window, waiting to arrive at the destination. Once you arrived, you and 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 were the first to get out of the bus, and immediately you started to spray the area around you with your cleaning alcohol. Everyone, meet 𝗏, a pro hero who specializes in rescue. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 stated, gesturing to a poofy-looking figure with a helmet. Hello everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is 𝗏, and just like 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 said, I specialize in rescue, which is what 𝑗 will be teaching us. The figure said. /and it's good to see you. I'm happy to see you finally decided to join the hero course. They said as they waved to you. You grunted in response and looked away, going back to gazing around the area. There were a variety of different environments in the 𝗏, but in all honesty your specialty was hand-to-hand combat. In places like these it was hard to use your quirk. Sure, you could take the energy of plants and animals, but there was no outlet. Sighing, you placed the hands on the back of your head, tuning out the rest of the class. Unbeknownst to you, a certain dual-haired male was gazing at you, eyes filled with curiosity. Then you felt a twitch near you. Placing your hands to the side, you looked around. There was a surge of unknown energy that was nearing the area. You poked 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽, who was next to you. He looked down at you and you pointed to a spot in the trees. As soon as you pointed, a warp formed as a group of villains came out from the purple portal. Your eyes widened as you looked at the group. Stepping back, you scowled underneath your mask. Is this part of the training? You rolled your eyes at Kirishima. Those are Midoriya breath. These are real villains. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 yelled. 𝗏, protect the students and leave the building. All alone. But your quirk Midoriya was cut off. A hero has more than one trick. 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽 said. He turned to you and you sighed. 𝑦/N. You waved your hands in response as you just sighed in defeat. You hung your head as you ran down with 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽. Wait, what? 𝐿/N-san, where are you going? You heard 𝗏 yell. Ugh, I can't get a thing break. You groaned as you just waved your hand up in the air in response while running with 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽. As you ran alongside your family friend, you were suddenly caught in a warp which caused you to fall down. You thought as you fell down with a thud. Didn't see that coming. Should have been more careful. You checked your surroundings. You shivered as the cold air hit your skin. If it's so cold. You thought, rubbing your arms with your hands to warm yourself up. Ugh, this is gross. Where the F am I? Your question was answered as you heard your name being called. 𝐿/N. You turned to see a dual-haired male in making his way towards you. He then created some ice to move over to you. Must be an ice quirk. /TCH frickin' endeavor. You scowled under your mask. Are you okay? He asked, reaching out a hand for you to get up. You looked at his hand and then looked back at his face. You gave him a look of disgust as you got up by yourself. He returned it with a small glare. He was trying to be tolerable, and the least you could do was at least be a little nice, but then again he didn't plan on making any friends when he first came here, so why was he upset? He was used to being the cold one. The one that people were scared to approach, but the person in front of him seemed to be exactly the same, and if not worse. And even more were the secrets, and you were hiding. What did you actually look like without the mask? Why weren't you becoming a hero when you had such a powerful quirk? What made you in a germaphobe? How did you know all these pros? These questions had been running in his mind the day that you had come to school. You stood but and dusted yourself off before taking out a small bottle of hand sanitizer and squeezing a small amount of your gloved hands and rubbed them. Reaching out your hand, Todoroki looked at you in confusion. You grumbled as you hesitantly grabbed one of his hands and gave him a good amount of hand sanitizer, gesturing him to rub his hands together. A bit in shock, he did as was told as rubbed them together. Oh right, she's a germaphobe. He remembered, his mind was a bit at ease. A group of villains appeared in front of you too. You groaned as you quickly ripped the bandages on your fingertips and lightly tapped them, causing them to fall. What the F dash, they exclaimed. You rolled your eyes before spraying your hands with cleansing alcohol once more. Gross, 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 gross. So many fing germs. Who knows where they have been? You shivered at the thought, frantically spraying yourself over and over again. Todoroki looked at your figure in confusion and you finally stopped and tucked away the bottle in your utility belt, then took off. Wait dash, he yelled, but before he could finish you were already out of sight. Sighing, he went back to the villains who were down on the ground. He froze them against the wall and went to interrogate them. You ran a bit more away from Todoroki as you tried your best to avoid the villains. Fing, thanks all might, if I didn't come to this school none of this would have happened. This is so troublesome. You thought as you ran. Suddenly you heard a loud groan. Panicked, you ran towards the sound to see your family friend's head being smashed against the floor by a huge bird-like creatures. Your eyes widened as you rushed down towards the male. His head was open and blood pooled around the concrete. You rushed over at his side, not caring about the filth, and snatched his body away from the creature. Why/N? He groaned out as he opened an eye to see your worried eyes. You nodded your head in response as you slowly started to give him some of the pent-up energy that you had gotten from the villains before to Aizawa. SHT, I hope this is enough. You thought as you felt the last bit of energy going out of you and into Aizawa's body. Feelings a bit more energized. He shot open his eyes and attempted to sit up but groaned at the pain in his head. Unknowns to you, you were so caught up in your state of panic over your teacher then you failed to recognize the gnome charging towards your back, turned towards them not recognizing they were there. It quickly grabbed you by the lifted you up before roughly throwing you against the ground. Why/N? Aizawa yelled. You arched your back as it made contact with the ground, groaning in pain as you felt a bit of blood trickle down from your forehead. See, this is what I get for caring about someone. This is gonna be the last time I give up. You thought as your body was once lifted again and thrown against a wall. L/N. You slowly opened your eyes and looked up to see Midoriya, 𝐶𝐿, and Mineta. You groaned in pain and coughed. You felt your mask go wet. Slowly you lifted a hand to your mask to see that your fingertips were covered in blood. You scowled. Your head was definitely open and that last throw definitely popped something. You looked around to see a couple trees. You hunched over and touched a few, quickly taking its energy while the trees slumped down and turned brown. You heard the door open to see All Might in the flesh, as the gnome turned to fight him. You went back to the trees to get as much energy as you could. The others had either made their way out or were trying to help All Might fight off the huge beast. After touching the fifth tree, you felt rejuvenated and started to run towards the beast that was giving a huge hit towards All Might. Bakugo, Midoriya, Todoroki, and Kirishima were already there trying to help the number one hero. You took a stance, raising both hands. You quickly formed a large ball, however you couldn't just aim it, the others would get hit as well. You waited a bit more, until All Might suddenly notice you. His eyes widened as he grabbed the four kids. Cover. As soon as they were out of range. You smirked underneath your blood-covered mask and flicked your wrist. The purple orb expanded as it flashed towards the gnome, immediately engulfing its body. It screamed in agony as it began to burn away, leaving nothing but a black burnt mark on the ground. Ugh, disgusting. You thought, dropping your hands to the side. You sighed as you started to walk towards Aizawa, who was being taken away to a nearby hospital. He gave you a look as if he was saying he was all right. What the hell? A pale blue-haired male exclaimed as he looked towards you. You didn't pay much attention and instead looked in concern towards 13, who was also being carried away. Snipe and the others happened to arrive as well, but you had already taken care of the mess before, so there wasn't much left to do. The villains escaped, but the handsy man just glared towards you as you looked at him with emotionless eyes. Then all of a sudden a wave of discomfort flooded your body as you fell to your knees and hands. You groaned in pain, coughing a fit as your mask started to darken to a crimson red. 𝐿/𝐿. You heard 𝐴 and a couple others all out your name. You felt yourself hurl a bit more blood as it started to seek out of your mask and drip onto the floor. Your head was pounding and your stomach felt like it was on fire. Your throat was clogged with blood as you tried your best to stop your coughing fit. A hand landed on your shoulder, you flinched and slapped away the hand, turning to glare at a certain red-haired male. He looked at you with wide eyes as you continued to cough. "I'll take it from here," a paramedic said as he lifted your body up onto a bed and took you inside the vehicle. You groaned in pain onto the bed, but felt a bit relieved that the paramedics were here. You loved the hospital more than anything. They kept everything clean and the smell of hand sanitizer was always in the air. You sighed as you let yourself close your eyes into a slumber. 𝐶𝐮 stupid villains, stupid 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐽𝐻, stupid kids. You grumbled in thought as you let sleep overtake your body. You fluttered your eyes open to stare into a white ceiling. Turning your head you saw an IV tube inserted into your arm. Slowly sitting up, you grunted in pain as you felt a fire in your stomach and back. Your stomach was bandaged and so was your head. Sighing you looked at your hands. The tips haven't split, that's good. You thought to yourself. Oh, you're awake. You turned to see a green-haired male sitting next to you. He was rubbing his eye and yawned, which indicated that he was asleep a while ago. Your eye widened as you quickly turned away from him and reached a hand to your mouth. You sighed in relief once you felt the mask on your face. Thankfully you didn't need an oxygen mask and you've been to this hospital quite a lot, so they knew of your tendencies. 𝐿/𝐿. You turned to face the green-haired male. You tilted your head in response. His face flushed as he frantically looked around for a notepad and pencil. Once found, he hesitantly handed it to you. You reached to the table next to your bed which had a bottle of hand sanitizer which you pumped a bit on your hand, then you held it up for the male who quickly held out his hands and rubbed the semi-liquid on his hands. Then you took your small bottle of cleansing alcohol and sprayed it all over the notepad. Once satisfied you took the notepad in your hands and looked at him awaiting for him to talk. He looked at you in confusion then immediately stammered to ask. "H, how are you feeling?" he asked. You looked down at the notepad and scribbled something down. "I'm fine." "Oh, that's good," he said, rubbing the back of his head. "What is it that you need?" "Oh, I just wanted to check up on you just in case. We were all a bit worried after the USJ incident. But thankfully the school gave us a couple days off of school to rest. We start school back tomorrow," he said. "Oh, how long was I out for?" "Just a day and a half, I think." "I'm glad you're doing better though." "Thank you." There was an awkward silence between you being calm while the latter was fumbling around with his fingers and anxiety filled up his entire body. He was nervous to speak even further, but he wanted to keep the promise that he had made with his number one hero. 𝐿/𝐿. I think what you did at USJ was really cool," he said. "Thank you, but it wasn't much." "What? No way, you were so cool and you even took down that huge monster by yourself." "It was disgusting, it needed to be disposed of." That's an interesting way of putting it," he said. "But either way I think you'll mark a great hero 𝐿/𝐿. I guess." "What? You would be an amazing hero. You were so cool and not to mention you don't seem to have any drawbacks." He continued to ramble on and on about how amazing you were and how you fought off the monster like it was nothing. You sighed. This was troublesome to you, you didn't need friends and you didn't really want any. But in a sense it was nice to be complimented, even if it was in a bit of a ramble. You just looked at the boy with emotionless eyes as he continued to talk about your quirk. "Sorry, I must have rambled again," he said as he caught himself and lowered his head in embarrassment. "It's fine." "Really? Then?" He gulped. "Then do you think W could be F friend?" You blinked as your brain began to process what he just said. "Friends? Hell no, you didn't need friends. Besides, he was disgusting, it was gross, and he was just another person that you had to clean up if you were to be near him." But before you could write down anything he cut you off. I know you're not a big fan of people because of your germaphobia, but I'll try my best to clean myself before approaching to you and I'll give you as much space as you need." I'll use hand sanitizer and cleansing alcohol just like you. He gave you a determined look. Soapy, please. Could we be friends? Your eyes slightly widened, but they were back down. This was a first. Usually people found it too tiring to be around you, and no one really bothered to adjust to your lifestyle. And others, you just forced yourself to clean up after them after they forced their friendship onto you. It was the first time that someone bothered to even try and adjust to your germophobia. You looked at him before looking back at your notepad in your lap. You sighed. I'm gonna regret this. You thought as you slowly started to write something down. I'll tolerate it. 𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐴 read the words and couldn't help but feel a huge smile spread across his face. And for the next hour, you wrote down instructions on how to properly clean and how to cleanse himself before approaching you. He vigorously took notes, and by the end of the day, he was able to leave the hospital with a quick handshake. It was nighttime. You were set to be discharged from the hospital tomorrow early in the morning. Leaning against the hospital bed, you looked up into the night sky. It was peaceful and nice, a appealing dark black littered with small tiny stars. A knock was heard as you turned your head to face the door. You saw your teacher. He was covered from head to toe with bandages, and only his nose and eyes were barely visible. He made his way towards the side of your bed and sat down on a chair. How you feeling, kid? He asked. You just shrugged as you took out the notepad from earlier. How are you? You took quite a hit. He chuckled. If it wasn't for you, I would be in more trouble. But I'm fine. Recovery girl just overdid it with the bandages. He said, looking down at his mummified body. You nodded in response. I saw how much you were worried about me. He slightly teased. You huffed out under your mask as you crossed your arms across your chest. He chuckled, then took a pump of hand sanitizer. He rubbed the semi-liquid and then started to ruffle your hair. I saw you got close with 𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐴. You shrugged, lifting up the notepad. He's okay, I guess, kind of overdramatic. 𝐬𝐬𝐴 chuckled while he read the paper. I know you're adjusting. You've been like his since you were a kid. He looked at you. How are your parents? Your parents were heroes, but they retired way earlier than they should have. Your mother was number 5 hero while your dad was a number 3 hero. But when they found out they were having you, they ditched the hero life to have a more simple life, so that you would be able to have a normal childhood, so that you could have the freedom of being a child. Something that both of your parents never had. Of course, other heroes came by to babysit you since they were friends with your parents ever since high school, where they went to UA together in the past. Hence why you were slightly more comfortable with 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐼𝐴. In all honesty, you were a product of a Quirk marriage. Thankfully, your parents were already together before the marriage was arranged, which is very rare. They're fine, they're just a bit lonely since I'm gone. That's good. Although I wish they hadn't retired so early. He dryly chuckled at the thought. You just shrugged at the thought. It was their decision, so you didn't pry. It wasn't like you could change it, it was their choice, not yours. 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐼𝐴 then gazed down on the nightstand where there was a painkiller and a glass of water that you hadn't touched. He picked them up and bumped your arm with his elbow. Here, you didn't take these. You sighed as you slowly took the mask down from your face and hooked it under chin. There were 2 burn scars from both corners of your lip. 𝐒𝐮𝐻𝐼𝐴 slightly flinched as he saw you take the painkiller into your mouth and gulp down the water. I drew what it's supposed to look like. Just apply it to yourself. I hope this helps. Does it still hurt? You gulped down the rest of your water as you lowered your head and gently placed it down on the nightstand next to your bed. Shaking your head, you lifted it back up to cover your scared face. The next morning you were released from the hospital, much to your dismay. It was the only place that you deemed clean. And you always enjoyed your stays in the hospital, the smell of rubbing alcohol, the sound of plastic medical gloves. Everything in the hospital put your mind in ease, and you didn't mind the people touching you since they always used hand sanitizer before. Sighing, you left your apartment complex after putting on your uniform and started to head toward school. You tugged up your mask and rubbed your gloved hands. 𝐿/𝐿. You turned around to see the familiar green-haired boy running towards you. You stopped in your tracks as he finally made his way to you and placed his hands on his knees to catch his breath. Good morning, 𝐿/𝐿. He said. You nodded in response as started to walk toward school with him walking beside you. He had learned from the day before to wearing gloves and always carry a small bottle of hand sanitizer whenever he was near you. You took notice of it and a small, almost invisible smile tugged up under your mask. "How was the hospital? Are you feeling better?" he asked. You shrugged in response and pointed at your forehead then your stomach. They were still bandaged but he couldn't see the one on your stomach because of your uniform. "I hope you feel better," he said, rubbing the back of his head. There was a moment of silence except for when 𝐼𝐻 would try to spark up a conversation with you, only responding with a shrug or shaking or nodding your head yes or no. He seemed to enjoy your neutral aura and you seemed to enjoy his bubbly presence. Just a bit. Once you made your way to the classroom, he quickly applied hand sanitizer and opened the door for you. "I know you don't like touching things so here." Your heart warmed up a bit before you nodded in gratitude and walked into class. Only a few students were there and a couple went up to you. "Oh my God. 𝐿/𝐿, I'm so glad you're okay," Mina said. "You were so manly. You took down that whole beast by yourself." Kirishima said with a fist. "I'm glad you're okay, Karo." Tsuyu said. "I could have done a better job." Bakugo said. The overwhelming amount of people were starting to get to you. So you subconsciously grabbed Midoriya's sleeve, tugging it slightly to get his attention, which succeeded. This didn't go unnoticed by the other students. "Oh, Midoriya, you got to make her comfortable around you," Zero said. "She doesn't talk to anyone, how'd you do it?" Mina said. Guys, give her some space," Midoriya said as he helped you make your way towards your desk. You grimaced as you quickly started to clean your desk once again to get rid of the dust and dirt that had been piled up during the 2 days off. Midoriya started to scoot the other students away from you to give you space and started to explain to the others about giving you space and cleaning before approaching you. Once finished cleaning, you sat down and exhaled. The others, Mina, Kirishima, Zero, and Midoriya slowly started to approach you. They had medical gloves on and the smell of hand sanitizer made its way through your mask up your nose, which indicated that they had used it. You looked at them and gestured for them to come a bit closer. They did as told and you took out 3 spare bottles of cleansing alcohol and set it down for them to take. They did and you took a small notepad from your backpack. "Please use these on yourselves. Thank you for being considerate," you wrote. Their faces beamed at your response and started to spray themselves like crazy. Bakugo, who was sitting, glared at what the others were doing. "But you're getting it everywhere," he yelled. "Come on, we're trying to get clean," Kirishima said. "Why? That demon extra isn't 𝐻𝗔," Bakugo said, gesturing to you. You just shrugged in response, not really caring for his comments. They were just meaningless words that were being thrown at you. Soon after, a small group formed around your desk and you were starting to get comfortable after they cleaned themselves. They chattered amongst themselves and you responded with gestures or with writing on a notepad. "Say 𝐿/𝐿, can I call you 𝑦/𝑛?" Mina asked. You shrugged and wrote, "I don't really care, do what you want." "Then me too," Kirishima and Zero said. You shrugged in response as Midoriya tapped your shoulder. "See, can I call you 𝑦/nt too?" You nodded in response. You couldn't help but smile a bit at the crazy group in front of you. Maybe Aizawa was right, they were different, maybe you could get friends. Soon everyone was here, and sat down in their respective seats. Sighing, you placed your head down on your desk and tugged up your mask once more. Truthfully, you didn't need the mask, rather you used it to cover the scars near your mouth. Ever since that accident, you started to wear a mask to cover it up, using your germaphobia as an excuse to wear it. No one except for a couple pro heroes, your only friend and your parents knew about the scars. You slowly turned your head to see Todoroki, who was looking out the window. You looked up at his scar. Furrowing your eyebrows, you subconsciously placed your fingers on your mask to feel the burnt skin through the mask. Todoroki felt a pair of eyes looking at him as he turned to meet yours. You didn't pay attention to him on looking at the scar. When you both made eye contact, you slapped a hand on over your mask as you turned away from him. He rose a brow in confusion but brushed it off. "Aizawa-sensei." You turned to the front of the class as a mummified Aizawa made his way to the stand. "Are you okay?" Ida asked. "My well-being doesn't matter. More importantly, the fight isn't over yet," he said, the tension growing in the classroom. "Fight?" Bakugo said. "Don't tell me." 𝐻𝐵 breath, villans. No. The UA Sports Festival is near. Are you sure it's okay to have a sports festival also after the villain attack? Jiro asked. You groaned in distress. You just got released from the hospital, you just fought a giant monster, and now you had to participate in a sports festival. This week couldn't get any worse. You rose your hand hoping to opt out of the sports festival. 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 looked at your raised hand and frowned, knowing you'd want to opt out since you found it bothersome and dirty. And no 𝐿/N you have to participate. He said. You groaned and face planted on your desk, lightly banging your forehead on the clean desk. It was bothersome and too much work. You didn't want to participate because that would mean you would have to touch people and be near their disgusting germs. Not to mention putting effort meant you'd be sweating, and that was not on your to-do list. Momo, who happened to be sitting next to you, looked at you with sympathy. She was observant and found out that you didn't want to be bothered and hated putting effort into anything and everything. She wrote something down and slowly slid it onto your desk. It's okay, 𝐿/N, you can do it. She wrote. You read over the paper. Looking at her, you nodded your head in gratitude before placing your chin back onto the desk. Don't worry, security will be strengthened to 5 times. And above all, the sports festival is a great way for you to be noticed by the big league heroes. It's not just a simple event that can be cancelled because of a few villains. 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 said. You groaned even more, which caused 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 to irk at your discomfort. You already knew some of the big leagues and a few you weren't very fond of. Especially Endeavor. Perhaps you could just give up during the first event and opt out so you wouldn't have to out in so much work. 𝐿/N must really hate the sports festival. Ojiro sweat dropped. You nodded in response and wrote something down and showed it to the class. It's too much work and too many germs. Everyone's sweat dropped as they read the paper. Anyways, 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 coughed. The sports festival is one of Japan's biggest events. This is an opportunity for any aspiring hero and you can't afford to miss it. He looked in your direction as you glared back at him. So don't slack off on your preparations. You scanned the people in your room to see if there were a few potential people you would have to fight. The only people who really stood a chance against you were Todoroki and Bakugo. But just the thought of putting effort into anything bored you. Homeroom dismissed. The lunch bell rang and you slowly got up off your seat. Midoriya approached you first with Uraraka and Iida behind him. 𝐻/N-chan. Would you like to eat with us? He asked. You shook your head and took out your bento and notepad. Sorry, I can't eat in front of people. Then would you like to get food with us at least? Uraraka asked. I don't food made by other people. Who knows what they've touched? With that, you didn't spare them a glance as made your way to a small place outside of school under a tree. Making sure no one was near you, you sat down and opened your bento. You slowly pulled down your mask to reveal your scarred face while you ate in silence. You didn't notice a figure watching you slowly from a distance. Class was soon over. You were hoping to get home and catch up on some sleep since you left the hospital so early. But much to your discomfort, there were a group of people crowding outside your classroom door. You groaned in response as you started to pack your bags slowly. What's going on? Uraraka asked. They're scouting out their competition. She turned to see Bakugo, who shoved Mineta away. We're the class that survived a villain attack, so it makes they'd want to look before the sports festival. He walked towards them with a glare. No point, now move out of the way, extras. Stop calling people extras. Iida exclaimed, chopping his hand in the air. It's true, we came to have a look. A male with purple hair and dark eye bags walked out in front of the crowd. You sure aren't, but are all the people in class A like this? You were too busy cleaning up your desk once that you failed to recognize the argument that was going on behind you. A lot of us who wanted to be part of the hero course but who didn't make it are forced to take part of other classes like General Edition. The purple-haired male scratched the back of his head. Depending on the scores during the sports festival, they'll consider transferring into the hero course. And they'll transfer some out too. He narrowed his eyes. Anyways, consider this a declaration of war. He said, scanning the room. His eyes finally laid on your figure. Eyes widened, he breathed out your name. 𝐻/N. Now catching your attention, you turned around to meet face to face with your one friend. Tilting your head, you looked into his dark eye bags. Itoshi. ― made his way towards you and grabbed your hand, which made you flinch, but you obliged. As you were about to be dragged out of the classroom, another hand grabbed your opposite one. You looked up to see a ash blonde glaring at your childhood friend. What are you doing, you DMN extra? 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 yelled. You internally flinched as this, panicking because you were being touched by someone else who was not sanitized. Thankfully you had your gloves on, but that still was bad enough. Let go. ― said, glaring back. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 growled as he tugged you back behind him. You gave ― a sympathetic look and gave him a nod which signaled that you would talk to him later, but he didn't notice. Get out of here, you DMN extra, you're not even in the hero course. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 yelled. ― snarled back. All of you in Class 1A are all the same snobby prick thinking that they're better than everyone. I'll talk to you late 𝑦/n, ― said before looking at you once last time and turning around to leave the room. You sighed in relief, thankful that there wasn't a fight, but as soon as you calmed down you ripped your hand away from 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 and started to take out hand sanitizer and cleansing alcohol. Cleaning yourself with the best of your ability. Hey, are you trying to say I'm dirty? He yelled, raising a fist to you. I'll kill you. Whoa man, calm down. Kirishima said, moving in between you guys. You frantically spayed yourself with rubbing alcohol and shivered. Quickly you took off the medical gloves, throwing them in a nearby trash can and replacing them with new ones. You felt a gloved hand on your shoulder. Are you okay, 𝑦/n-san? You turned around to see Midoriya and you slowly nodded. Did you know that guy? Kaminari asked, pointing a thumb at the door. You looked back down at your hands and sighed before nodding your head. Taking out a notepad you wrote, he's a friend. You just shrugged as you bent down to grab the book bag that you dropped. Whoa, how do you know each other? Zero asked. Childhood. You wrote. ― who cares about him, he's just another DMN extra, he's not even in the hero course. 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 said as he walked out of the classroom. Did you consider us as friends? 𝑦/n-san? Midoriya asked as the others waited for a response. They weren't dumb, they noticed that you weren't exactly the friendliest, but the small interactions that they had with you were nice. You only spoke when spoken to, and even then they were just mere yes or no questions. You thought about it. Are we really friends? If anything, you were just acquaintances, but seeing them be so considerate with your germaphobia kind of made you feel welcomed. People would always judge you for the way you acted, which you didn't really care. But there never was a time where someone stopped to think and consider how you felt. It was either them getting weirded out or people invading your personal bubble and forcing themselves onto you, much to your dismay, but here you were in front of a romp of people who accepted you and your phobia and took the time to get to know you and your tendencies. Perhaps you could spare yourself a few friends. Only a few. You looked at them and nodded. Their eyes sparkled as Mina, Kirishima, and Kaminari teared up, embracing each other. You sweat dropped at the scene in front of you. This is going to be a long 3 years, you thought to yourself. The past 2 weeks were given to us to spend on training for the UA Sports Festival. However, you being the lazy person you are, spent most of that time lounging around and doing nothing while the others trained. It was almost the end of the first week when one day after school Kirishima approached you. You both did your ritual of putting medical gloves and hand sanitizer before he walked up next to your desk. 𝑦/n? Do you want to help me train? He asked. You deadpanned at him. At this point, a lot of people already knew that you had no intention of winning the sports festival or even trying, so for him to approach you to ask for training was a mystery of its own. You shook your head no as turned away from him, which bummed him out a bit, but then he got an idea. I'll treat you to F/F. Your ears perked up and slowly turned your head towards him. See, you thought. Should you do it? On one hand, you would have to train, but then on the other you would be getting free food, and who wouldn't want free food? You banged your forehead on your desk as Kirishima yelped back. You took out a notepad and glared at him. Fine. You wrote. He beamed in happiness. All right, he said as he took your hand and dragged you out of the classroom carrying both of your book bags. I promise I'll keep myself clean and try not to touch you as much, he said, looking back at you with a huge smile on his face. You couldn't help but smile a bit back as you were being dragged towards a training area in the school. Thankfully it was only one person, so it wouldn't be that bad. Okay, so how do you want to do this? Do you think you can slowly drain out a bit of my energy so I can see how long I can last in a fight? He asked you. You nodded as you removed the bandages on your fingers. You touched him and drained about 30% of his energy. He slumped his shoulders a bit, feeling the energy being taken away from him. Whoa, that's such a weird feeling, he said, straightening himself again. You just shrugged as you placed your book bag down and got into a lazy stance with your hands in your pockets. He grinned at you and hardened his skin, jumping up trying to attack you. Sighing under your mask, you jumped to the side as his fist collided with the ground. He looked up and started to attack you again, which you dodged once more. You jumped in the air and grazed your fingertips again on his arm, taking away another 50%. His attacks started to get slower and weaker, while you jumped up and down and moved side to side to avoid his attacks. By the end of it, he was breathing heavily and you had taken almost 85% of his energy. He ran up to give one more final blow but missed and collapsed on the ground. You took out a notepad and wrote, "Not bad, you lasted for a good hour or so." He gave you a grin and sat up from his position as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Thanks. And you were so manly. You didn't even break a sweat," he said, cheekily grinning. A small smile tugged on your lips. "Thanks, it's nothing though," you said before you took out a bottle of hand sanitizer and rubbed the liquid onto your hands and placed a pair of medical gloves on. You heard a chuckle next to you as you sat down a couple inches away from him. "You must really not like getting dirty," he said. "Yeah, everything is gross to me." You frowned under your mask. "Well, I'll try my best to be clean for you then." Your heart skipped a beat. Why bother trying? It's a waste of time, no. You couldn't help but feel warm inside hearing those words. And for the first time in a while you parted your lips. "Thank you," you spoke in a quiet, soft voice. Kirishima's eyes widened as he looked at you in disbelief. This was the first time that he had heard you talk. Your voice was soft and quiet, barely a whisper. But those two words meant so much more. Ever since the first day of school you hadn't spoken once. And even All Might and Aizawa said that you hadn't spoken for years. But now here you were, talking for the first time in a while to him. He was the first, and for some reason he was happy to be your first. He found a sense of pride in him. "Why you spoke," he stuttered out. You looked at him with a blank look and nodded. "I'm not mute, I can speak, I just choose not to," you whispered so that he could barely hear. Kirishima shook his head and smiled widely. I know I know you haven't talked in a while, and I'm just surprised. You only ever communicate with your notepad." He trailed off. You looked at him for a while before looking back at the ground. A comfortable silence filled the air between you two. The sun was setting and you both just sat, feeling comfortable within each other's presence. Then does this mean you'll talk a bit more?" Kirishima asked. A part of him wanted to keep this part of you to himself. He felt pride swell up in his chest to be the first one to hear your voice, and he wanted to keep it that way. But he had made a promise with All Might to help you become a hero, and it wouldn't be manly of him to keep you away from others. You turned to make eye contact with him and shrugged. "Maybe," you whispered. "Take your time. We'll be waiting for you," Kirishima said, smiling. You couldn't stop the small smile forming on your lips as you looked at him. He couldn't see it obviously because of the mask, but he could tell you were happy. He got up and walked over to you, squeezing a bit of hand sanitizer on his hands to clean them, and reached out a hand to you. "Come on," I said, "I'll treat you right," he said as you took his hand and stood up, dusting yourself off as you both made your way to pick up your book bag to head out. You made your way towards one of your favorite restaurants. You don't eat other people's food, but you make a few exceptions, especially this one, since you've come here as a child, and the owner knew you very well. You were able to go in the kitchen and clean their restaurant a couple times, and he made sure to always clean his hands and utensils before he cooked for you. Before you entered, you gripped Kirishima's sleeve. He looked back at you and you took out your notepad. "Is it okay if we order it to go? I can't eat in front of people." Kirishima frowned a bit. He wanted to use this time to get to know you and perhaps talk to you a bit more, since it seemed like you were starting to talk to him more with our voice bit by bit. But again, he didn't want to push you too much, so he replaced his frown with a small smile and nodded. You were grateful that he didn't push it as you wrote a small "thank you" before making your way in and getting your food together. Once the food was given to you, you both made your way home, separating at a path and waving to each other. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 would be lying if he said that you didn't pique his interest. I mean, who wouldn't be interested? You were a germaphobe who had an extremely powerful quirk. And on top of that, you never spoke and never revealed your full face. The entire class was curious about your mysterious demeanor, and they wanted to get to know you more. They wanted to know what you looked like, how your voice sounded like, how you knew all these pro-heroes, and why you didn't to be a hero. Surely there was more to it than just your germaphobia. You had an amazing quirk, so why not use it for good? These questions flooded in 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴's head as he made his way home. Thinking back to your training today, he couldn't help but remember your voice in his head. It was so soft and fragile, and he could tell by your whispers that you weren't used to talking. A warm feeling bubbled up in his chest as a wide grin spread across his face. I'll wait for you to tell me everything, he thought as he skipped the way home with a bag of food in his hand. Over the past week you spent your time training 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴, who in turn bought you snacks and food for compensation. There wasn't much said between you two, but you both sort of enjoyed each other's presence. You balanced out his energetic side while he balanced out with your quiet side. You started to say a few words here and there, whispering into his ear so only he could hear. All in all, you considered him one of the closest in the class. He was patient with you and considerate, always making sure to clean himself and give you space when needed. He didn't push you out of your comfort zone and is wary of your surrounding. Overall, you appreciated his consideration. Hey 𝐬/N, what do you want to eat today? He asked as the lunch bell rang. He bent down as your masked face came closer to his ear, placing a hand over your lips to cover any noise you whispered. Takoyaki, in a small quiet voice that only he could hear. Sounds great. I'll buy you some after training, he said as you both started to pack your bags. Everyone had seemed to notice you getting awfully close with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴, and much to their dismay, they couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. Midoriya couldn't help but feel a bit tense. He had known you first and was the first to approach you, especially in the hospital that you stayed in. He felt as though he had grown closer to you compared to the others, but it seemed as though 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 had gotten to you first. He sighed as he went to get ready for lunch. But how come you're only talking to shitty hair here, you damn clean freak? 𝐒𝐮𝐴 yelled, approaching you. You backed away as you started to reach for your bottle of hand sanitizer. But 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 blocked him from going to you. Hey, give her some space, she needs time, bro, he said as he put an arm up to block him from moving any further. Are you saying I'm not good enough? He yelled. You just shrugged as you took out your bento and started to head out of the classroom to your usual lunch area. Hey 𝐀𝐮𝐴, how'd you get her to talk? Mina asked as the others listened. I don't know, I mean, I offered to buy her food in exchange for helping me training. He smiled to himself, recalling the past couple days you had interacted with one another. But it kind of 𝐒𝐮𝐴, she only talks to you, Kaminari said. I wish she would open up more. I want to see how she looks like without that mask on. Me too. I bet she's cute, Mina said. TCH, who cares about that DMN clean freak? She's scared of a bunch of germs. How pathetic. 𝐒𝐮𝐴 sneered. Hey man, just give her some time, she'll open up eventually, 𝐀𝐮𝐴 said. How come she never eats with anyone? Uraraka asked. Now that you mention it, she's never eaten with us at all. She always leaves or declines whenever we ask her to eat with us, Ida said. Kind of rude. I'm sure she has her reasons, but she's a bit suspicious, Karo. So you said. Yeah, but I wish we could get to know her more. Midoriya trailed off as he looked at your empty seat. He wanted to know you more, about your quirk, about who you were as a person. He was interested in your secrets and stories. She said she doesn't eat in front of people, 𝐀𝐮𝐴 said. Every time I go and buy her snacks and food, we always order to go. That's weird, Mina said. Maybe it's because of her germaphobia, Kaminari said. Maybe. You were walking down the halls with your bento in hand and a bottle of cleansing alcohol in your pockets, when suddenly you heard your name. 𝐬/N. You turned to see ‡ walking up to you, talking out a bottle of hand sanitizer and rubbing it in his hands. You inwardly smiled under your mask as you stopped for him to catch up. He gave you a small smile as you walked side by side to a small secluded area outside of school, under a tree. Plopping down next to each other, you sat down and opened your bento. You cautiously looked around if anyone was there besides you and 𝗀𝐿. Calm down, no one's here, and if they are I'll cover you, he said, giving you a smile. Sighing in relief, you slowly pulled down your mask to reveal the burn scars on your face. He frowned a bit looking at them before bringing a hand up to graze them with his fingers. You flinched up. Calm down. 𝗀𝐿 was your childhood friend, and naturally you had gotten used to his presence and his germs. They didn't bother you as much since you had grown up with it, but he still tried his best to clean himself as much as possible around you. Does it still hurt? He asked, frowning a bit when you flinched under his touch. You shook your head no, to which he deepened his frown. You can talk, you know, no one's here. I haven't seen you since the end of elementary. I miss my best friend. 𝐻𝐿 Avenue, a small smile nudging you with his elbow. I miss you too, you whispered as you took a bite of food. He smiled as your response and took a sip of his drink. And for the rest of lunch you both sat in silence while exchanging a few words here and there. It was nice, being able to talk and breath openly without worrying, and you both liked it. You didn't see him as a villain and you didn't look at him in disgust. Something that you both needed from somebody and you found it in one another. I'll see you later then, 𝑦/N, he said as you both walked down the halls after lunch was over. You nodded as he smiled and gave you a small hug. You stood still, then slowly lifted a hand to pat his back. He buried his head in your hair, inhaling your scent. It was mixed with the smell of rubbing alcohol and strawberry milk. Smiling, he let go and you both headed to class. It was finally the day of the UA Sports Festival. You groaned in discomfort as you were surrounded by your classmates. You didn't want to participate, heck, you didn't want to be here. Sighing, you dusted your PE clothes and tugged up your black mask. Since you didn't know what would happen, you didn't want to risk you burning off your mask, so you switched to a non-flammable black one. I like your new mask, 𝑦/N. Mina said. Yeah, you look so manly with it. Kirishima said. You nodded in gratitude as the others talked amongst themselves. Midoriya. You heard Todoroki say. He then turned to you. 𝐿/N. He walked towards you while Midoriya trailed closer, walking away from a shaking Mineta. You backed away a bit and they noticed, halting a few feet away from you. He spoke. What is it, Todoroki? Midoriya asked. Objectively speaking. Todoroki glared at the green-haired male. I'm stronger than you. Everyone turned to you three as you looked lazily as the two talking in front of you. Well, I know, Midoriya said. But All Might has his eyes on you. He trailed off. I will beat you. I'm going to become number one. Hey, is it really a good time to pick a fight now? Right before the festival starts? Kirishima said, trying to calm down the situation. I came here to become number one, not to make friends. Todoroki stated. I don't know what you're thinking when you say you'll beat me. Midoriya stated, looking up at Todoroki. Of course you're better than me, possibly the best in the class. He clenched his fists. But even then I'm not going to back down. I'll be giving it my all, Todoroki, just like everyone else. I'm aiming for the top and I won't back down. Todoroki then turned towards you. I have no intention of losing to you either. He glared at you as you looked at him with dead eyes. You took out a notepad and wrote something down before showing it to him. I have no intention of winning. You wrote as you went to walk away. You made sure you were far away from people as you made your way towards the entrance. TCH, there's too many people here. You thought as you unconsciously played with your bandaged fingers. Once every class had huddled together, Midnight walked onto the stage, cracking her WHP. You scowled. Under you mask at the amount of dust that was forming from the WHP. You okay, 𝑦/N? Midoriya asked, looking at you. You shook your head as a dark aura formed around you. You really didn't want to be here. She must really hate the sports festival. Midoriya thought to himself. Now, Bakugo Katsuki, as class representative, please make your way up. Midnight announced. Everyone gasped as Bakugo made his way next to Midnight. Well, he did take first place in the entrance exam. 𝗂𝗧 said. All I wanted to say is... Bakugo smirked. I'm going to win. Silence filled the stadium as the crowd booed him and his overconfidence. Naturally, Bakugo was unbothered as he walked down the stag back into the group. You sighed under your mask. Great, now people are going to think we're PPS. This is even more troublesome. You groaned as you slapped a hand on your forehead. This is going to be a long day. Everyone exited the stadium and towards the track for the first task of the festival. You made your way to the front so that you could be away from everyone else. Quickly you took out a bottle of hand sanitizer and lathered it all over your hands as you ripped off the bandages on your fingers. 3, 2, 1. And the final beep went off as the doors opened. The temperature suddenly dropped as you looked at Todoroki, freezing everyone in place. You sighed, "Great, this dumb cheat. Might as well." You lightly touched the ice of your feet, causing it to weaken as you started to lazily walk down the track. "Clean freak, what the hell?" You heard 𝐻𝐿𝐴 yell from behind you as everyone else was trying to crack the ice. You waved your hand at them walking down the track with your hands behind your head. You didn't care if you won or not, but as you scanned the crowd you saw a pair of familiar faces. Squinting your eyes a bit, you saw your parents as they waved towards you. Your eyes widened as they smiled widely, mouthing the words, "Go get him." A small smile creeped up under your mask as you started to run. Oh. It seems like 𝐬𝐿 is slowly picking up her pace. And Todoroki is making his way in first place. "Dang Aizawa, what do you teach you kids?" Present Mike yelled through the intercom. You kept running a while the other classmates freed themselves from the ice charging towards you. In front of you were a group of robots. Sighing, you ran while grazing your hands against any robots that made their way towards you, instantly collapsing at your touch. While you were running, you passed Todoroki, who had a robot right in front of him. Inwardly smirking, you touched it lightly, causing the robot to fall on top of him. Would you look at that? 𝐬𝐿 is making the robots fall on her classmates. What a show. You were now in the lead as you ran to the next course. You used the energy that you got from the robots and used it to propel you across the hole in the ground while you landed safely on the other side. The others were catching up as you made your way towards the mine field. Oh, this is going to be easy. You thought as you started to walk into the mine field. You took off your shoes and socks and held them in your arms. What's this? 𝐬𝐿 is just walking on the mine field. And none of them are going off. With each step you activated your quirk, and if there was a mine underneath your feet, your quirk would deactivate it by taking its energy. You smirked as you jogged across the field. "I'm not going to lose to a clean freak like you." You heard 𝐻𝐿𝐴 yell as the other students made their way towards you. Currently Todoroki and 𝐻𝐿𝐴 were getting closer to you as you were making your way towards the finish line in a slight jog. All of a sudden, a huge explosion was heard as you were about a foot away from the finish line. You stopped to run only to see a green-haired male blasting towards you, riding on a piece of metal. And before you knew it, he whizzed past you as you crossed the finish line. In first place, Midoriya Izuku, while trailing behind him, 𝐬𝐿/N. It was a close race. Todoroki and 𝐻𝐿𝐴 trailed in soon after you, placing them in third and fourth as the rest of the classmates started to flood in. Sighing, you put back your socks and shoes, tugged up your mask once more and applied hand sanitizer on your hands to clean yourself a bit. 𝐬𝐿/N, I'm sorry for taking your spot in first place. Midoriya frantically said, walking up to you. You raised a hand and waved him off to say that it was fine. It really was. You had no intention of being first, but after seeing your parents in the crowd you wanted to impress them a bit, make them proud. They always wanted you to be a hero with your amazing quirk, and at times you knew that you weren't the best daughter. To you they were the best parents you could ask for, so you wanted to make it up to them. But you clean freak. What the hell? What was that? 𝐻𝐿𝐴 said, stomping towards you. Why didn't you try? Why are you half-butting this? You just shrugged as you started to wipe the sweat off of you and walked away. Don't ignore me, you bisui. You ears him yell. That was so cool, 𝐬𝐿/N. Mina said, jogging towards you along with Kirishima, Siro, Uraraka, and Kaminari. You were so manly. You just walked past the minefield. Kirishima said, yeah. And the robots just fell when you touched them. Kaminari said, praising you. You shrugged and nodded in gratitude. While they kept praising you, you couldn't stop the warm feeling inside of you growing as you looked towards your parents in the crowd. They were waving their hands, smiling and laughing towards you. Your dad giving you a thumbs up while your mom was reaching her hands towards you with anime tears fling from her face, shouting, "That's my baby." Time for the second event. Dear Kami-sama, the next round was a cavalry battle based off of a point system, which meant that whoever was in first place was worth 1 million points. You turned to see Midoriya's soul drain out of his body. Poor kid, you thought, oh well. As you tugged up your mask once more. Now get into teams of 3 or 4. Midnight said as she cracked her WHP. You have 15 minutes. Clean freak. You're on my team. You turned to see Bakugo march towards you as he was about to grab your hand. You quickly moved to the side as he stumbled. What the heck? You're on my team whether you like it or not. Bakugo tried to grab your hand once more, but you moved to the side to avoid him. No way am I going to be on his team, he's covered in sweat. You thought as you started to walk away. 𝐿/N. You looked to see Todoroki walking towards you. Be on my team. No way, icy hot. Clean freak is going to be on my team. Bakugo yelled back as he made his way towards you. Great, I can't get a thing break. You groaned in distress as they argued back and forth. Kirishima walked up next to you. You turned as he held out his hand. Hand sanitizer. He said as you quickly gave him some. Once his hands were clean, he placed a hand on your shoulder. They must really want you to be on their team. He chuckled. Well, I mean, you are really strong. You just shrugged as you scanned the arena looking for someone to team up with. You then saw Midoriya by himself, trembling back and forth looking around nervously. Come on, 𝐻/and you don't have to be nice. Remember, you're not here to make friends. You thought, as your body subconsciously moved towards the green-haired boy whose eyes lit up in delight as you walked towards him. Kirishima watched as you got out of his grasp and walked towards Midoriya. He frowned. He hoped that you would be on his team, but sadly you went to another. Sighing, he grabbed Bakugo's arm and dragged him away to another part of the arena. 𝐹/N-chan. Midoriya said, looking at you with tears welling up in his eyes. You had your hands in your pockets as you looked at him with a bored look. Taking out your notepad, you wrote out a few words. If you don't mind, I'd like to be the one to hold the headband. I don't want to get dirty. Oh, of course. Midoriya said. He was happy to see you be on his team. Recently he hasn't talked to you in a while, so he was happy to see you come towards him and willingly be on his team when no one wanted to. Soon Midoriya was able to recruit Uraraka and Tokoyami on the team as you both readied in positions. So what's the plan? Uraraka asked. You took out a notepad and wrote, I can just touch the people who try to take the band and make them fall. It'll be an easy win, don't worry. If I need help, I'll tap one of you. Whoa, this will be an easy win then. Uraraka beamed with a smile. We're counting on you, 𝐿/N. Tokoyami said with a determined look. I believe in you, 𝐻/N-chan. Midoriya said as you gave them a thumbs up. Before we start, please put some hand sanitizer. You wrote as they deadpanned while reading the notepad but did as told. And once done, they hoisted you up on Tokoyami's shoulders and you go into position. Alright, is everyone ready? Midnight yelled into the mid. The timer ticketed as everyone else got into position. The game starts. Now. Immediately, the team started to rush towards you to get the 1 million points. Tokoyami, Uraraka, and Midoriya started to run away, hoping for a way to keep the band away from arm's reach. Not so fast. Someone yelled from behind and the ground started to soften underneath your 3 members. Uraraka quickly levitated the group out of the soft ground onto stable ones. Jiro aimed an attack on you, trying to reach for the band, to which you simply touched her, making her fall onto the ground. Damn it, 𝐿/N. You heard her groan as she lifted her head from the ground. You turned to look at her and shrugged. Mayonetta, Tsuyu, and Shoji were now in front of you as Mayonetta shot his sticky ball from inside of Shoji's arms. You straightened your back a little bit before touching all of them, absorbing their energy as they lifelessly plopped onto the floor. Damn it. You're too strong, 𝐿/N. He whined as your group went to advance forward, away from other teams. Behind you was a giant explosion. Turning, you saw Bakugo barreling towards you with a giant grin on his face. I'm gonna make you regret not being on my team, you clean freak. He yelled as he blasted towards you. You moved your body to face him as you raised a hand. Your fingers touched the tip of his nose. His eyes widened as his body suddenly stopped him mid-air and his blasts disappeared, making him fall onto the ground while your team ran away. "F you clean freak." You heard him yell as you looked up ahead of you with dead eyes. "That was so cool 𝐻𝐿. Uraraka said, looking up at you with wide eyes. "You just took down 3 people. Midoriya said, "How does that work? OMG, do you have any drawbacks? Please talk to me about your quirk later." You nodded in response. "I expected nothing less from you 𝐿/N. Tokoyami said as you shrugged in response, tugging up your mask once more. "Ugh, I've touched way too many people today. I am definitely going to take a 2-hour shower once I get home to get this filth off of me." Incredible. 𝐻/N seems to be dominating this challenge, making people top like flies. What a real MVP. Present Mike yelled into the intercom. As you made your way across the arena, a cold breeze made your way towards your team as ice formed around your team. Todoroki came into view as the ice started to creep up all around you. "I'll be taking that headband," he said, narrowing his eyes at you while you looked back with a blank expression. "What do we do?" Uraraka exclaimed, panicking. "We're covered in ice," Midoriya said. Todoroki ran up to you as he got closer, but before he could touch the headband, you stuck out a hand, your fingers grazing against his palm, and before you knew it, he collapsed onto the ground. He lifted his head weakly, looking up to you as you looked at him with dead eyes. You teammates looked down at him with gaping mouths. Incredible. 𝐻/N's team is taking the lead still with 1,000,000 points. She really is the best. You bent down to touch the ice as it slowly started to melt, allowing your teammates so break free from the ice and move forward and run away from the other opponents. By now the other classmates that had fallen due to your quirk were starting to slowly gain their energy back as Bakugo's team started to sprint towards you. "You're not getting away, Midoriya. You quirkless bastard." He yelled as he blasted towards you. Ito was making way with his engines as his team lifted Todoroki's lifeless body onto their shoulders. They were all hoping to get the headband from you. Your team just stood in the middle like a deer in headlights until the buzzer went off. "Time's up." Bakugo face planted onto the floor and Todoroki's team stopped in their tracks. "We did it." Uraraka and Midoriya squealed as they high-fived each other. Tokoyami gently bent down so that you could hop off. You bowed to him in gratitude as he waved you off, saying that it was okay. "Thank you 𝐻/N. Midoriya said, beaming with a huge smile while leaning towards you. "We couldn't have done it without you." Uraraka said. "You really are powerful." Tokoyami said as you raised your hands in self-defense, inching away from them. They backed up as they continued to bask in their glory. The first 4 teams will advance to the next round. In first team 𝐻/N. Second team Todoroki. Third team Bakugo. And in fourth team 𝗧𝗜𝗃. "Wait a minute, it's team ☆ Present Mike yelled in the intercom. You team exclaimed in delight as you pulled out a bottle of hand sanitizer and pumped a bit onto your hands, rubbing the liquid in, then dusting yourself off. "And for our final event, will be the tournament," Midnight exclaimed. "What?" You groaned as you face-palmed yourself. Great, now you had to touch even more people and get all sweaty and dusty, and who knows what your opponent will do. What if they touch you or grab you? You were brought out of your thoughts as you felt Tokoyami's hand on your shoulder. "Hey, you'll be fine, relax." You flinched a bit at his touch but slowly started to calm down. All you had to do was touch them and you'd be fine. You got a bunch of energy stacked up in you too from the past 2 rounds, so if anything you could just blast them out of the bounds. You were all dismissed to take a break and eat food before the tournament started. You sighed as you made your way to the bathroom to try and clean up a bit and avoid people as much as possible. You were stopped with a hand on your shoulder. Turning around, you see ☆. "Good job out there," he said as he smiled. "I know you don't eat other people's food, so my mom made you some food. I know how much you like her onigiri." He handed you a small bento. You smiled widely under your mask as you took the bento from him and gave him a small hug, to which he returned. "Thank you, Hitoshi," you whispered as he gave you a smile and rubbed the back of his neck. "It's nothing, don't worry about it. Now go on to the bathroom, I know how much you want to clean up right now," he said as you gave him a small bow and walked to the bathroom. Entering the bathroom, you were alone. You proceed to clean your hands and took a damp paper towel covered in soap to wash up your arms, forehead, and neck. You then took off your shoes and socks to clean your feet from when you were walking on the minefield barefoot. Once done, you walked out of the bathroom and found a small secluded area outside to eat in peace by yourself. 𝗀𝐿's mom always made the best 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐼 and you loved her to death. She was like an aunt to you, and every birthday she always offered to clean your room and bought you a bunch of cleaning supplies and extra masks. Once finished with your food, you tugged up your mask once more and started to head inside the stadium. You were hoping to at least see your parents once more before the match, but as you turned a corner you saw your dad talking to the number 2 hero 𝗏𝗏. 𝗏𝗏/N. I saw your game, I'm so proud of you. Your dad said as he walked up to you and gave you a hug, to which you nodded and patted his back. 𝐿/N. You looked up to see 𝗏𝗏 in front of you with Todoroki behind him. This is my son Shoto Todoroki. I assume you know him since you were in the same class. You nodded in response as your dad let go of you and glared at 𝗏𝗏. I saw your match today and I'm impressed with your skills. You have an incredibly powerful quirk. 𝗏𝗏 said and was about to continue, but your dad stopped him. 𝗏𝗏, as much as I respect you for being the number 2 hero, I will not sell my daughter to you. I don't want to force my daughter into a quirk marriage. Your dad said. Your eyes widened, then glared back at 𝗏𝗏. But think about it, D/N, with Todoroki's ice and fire and your daughter's drainage quirk, they would make an incredible offspring. No. That is final. You and I were both in a quirk marriage, and I know 𝗏𝗏 was not happy about it. I don't want my daughter to have the same fate as Ray. Your dad said, standing up to you with an arm around your shoulder. D/N, you wouldn't know talent. That's why you quit your hero job early. How pathetic. 𝗏𝗏 said, glaring at your dad. You froze. This man did not just insult your father like that. No one looks down at your dad, especially a sorry excuse for a hero. You walked in front of your dad, right in front of 𝗏𝗏, who lifted an eyebrow at your presence. Go to hell. You spoke in a low voice that was barely a whisper, but everyone around you heard you loud and clear. Especially Shoto. His eye widened as he listened to you speak. This was the first time that you had shown an emotion, and not to mention, the first time he's heard your voice. With that, you walked out of the area, walking past your dad, to a secluded area to cool down. Shoto didn't know what got to him, but he rushed after you, while the two adults stared back before glaring at one another. Once he found you, he walked towards. You were leaning against the wall and looking down at the ground. Your fists were clenched as you glared at the floor. He walked up a foot in between you and leaned against the wall. You flinched a bit as scooted a little bit away from him. I'm sorry about my dad. He whispered. You shook your head and took out your notepad. It's not your fault. He wants me to surpass All Might. He says I'm his greatest creation, to control both fire and ice. He looked at the ground. I don't want to ever use my left side. My mother hated it and poured hot water on my left side because of my dad. His hand grazed his scar. I'm sorry to hear. You wrote. There was a moment of silence before Shoto started to speak. I saw your scars. Your eyes widened as you whipped your head towards him. How did he see your scars? You didn't slip up, did you? You tried so hard to hide them. You glared at him as anger filled your body. This was part of your private life and you didn't want to show anyone your disgusting scars, and here was Shoto admitting that he saw your biggest insecurity. You began to walk away slowly, but he grasped your wrist. I'm sorry, I saw you during lunch while you were eating. I was just curious and well. He trailed off, looking at the ground in shame. How dare he invade your personal space without your consent? You felt violated, vulnerable. You felt so exposed and it disgusted you. You never pried into his business, so why did he try to pry in yours? You never gave him permission and you respected his private life, so why didn't he do the same? Don't touch me. You're disgusting, you said as you roughly ripped your wrist out of his grasp and walked away as Shoto looked at your retreating form. He looked down at the ground in shame. You didn't watch the other games. You left into a small secluded area away from everyone else. You didn't want to face the others. What if they too had seen your scars? What if they went behind your back as looked at you without your permission? All of these questions filled your head while you sat down, leaning against the wall, lost in your thoughts. You never showed your scars to anyone besides a select few, your parents, a few pro-hero friends such as Aizawa and All Might, and your friend Hitoshi. No one out of that circle saw them, and you wanted to keep it that way, but here you were, with another vermin that forced his way into your life, forcing himself to see your deepest insecurities. For now you couldn't trust anyone, you just wanted to get this day over with and go home. Next match is Mina Ishido and 𝐿/𝐻𝐼𝐿/N. Present, Mike said. You walked towards the middle of the stadium with a glare, while Mina waved as you excitedly. What if she had went behind your back too? What if she was just being nice just so that she could tear you apart? With these thoughts in your head, anger boiled within you. 𝐻/N-chan. Let's do our best. She said. You sent a stern glare to her. Now for the fourth round we have our acidic alien, who'll boil you down with her quirk. Mina Ishido. Present, Mike said, and in the same ring we have our mysterious yet powerful daughter of a retired pro-hero, 𝐿/𝐻𝐼𝐿/N. And begin. Before Mina could even get a hit on you, you raised your hand to form a ball of purple energy that you had gotten from the first 2 rounds. Flicking your wrist, you blasted it towards her as she was pushed. Once the light faded, Mina was out of bounds on the floor. Her body was emitting steam while she had a few scratches here and there, but nothing too serious. The crowd was silent, mouths gaping as they just watched the match finish in only a matter of seconds. You dropped your hand down to your side as you turned to leave the stadium. The crowd roared in cheer as they praised your work, but you didn't care. You wanted to leave, you wanted to get away from these filthy humans. Not even bothering to check if your opponent was okay, you walked out, a stern glare painted all over your face. Mina Ishido is out of bounds. The winner if 𝐿/𝐻𝐼𝐿/N. What a quick match. Once you were far away from the stadium, you went to a secluded area, not even going to look for your classmates. The hallway you were in was empty. No one was there and they were too busy watching the match, so you were able to be in your thoughts by yourself. Taking out your bottle of hand sanitizer, you poured a bunch of your hand as it started to seep through your fingers onto the floor. You watched with emotionless eyes as the semi-liquid fell down your hand onto the floor. Stopping, you rubbed your hands, then your arms, then your shoulders. Your body was trembling. With wide eyes you crouched down with your hands clasped over your mask-covered mouth. Attempting to cover it more and more even though it was already covered, you couldn't risk it. A figure made its way towards you and bent down to pat your shoulder. Without thinking, you slapped it away from you. Looking up, you saw that the person you had slapped away was 𝗀𝐿. He looked at you with wide eyes as he bent down and placed his arms around you. What happened? He asked in a soft voice. Shaking your head, you tugged up your mask once more to try and cover it more. Someone. So, you stuttered. 𝗀𝐿's eyes widened as he embraced you in his arms, a hand on your head while your head was pushed into his shoulder. You inhaled his scent a bit more, gripping his shirt in your hands. It's okay. I'll kill that bastard. He growled as he pat your head. While he comforted you, Midoriya had actually walked out to congratulate you, but he saw you in 𝗀𝐿's arms. With wide eyes he approached you and called out your name. 𝐻/N-chan. He yelled. Your back was facing towards him while 𝗀𝐿 glared at him while his head was on your shoulder. Come on, let's go, he said as he lifting you up and placed an arm on your shoulder, talking you away from the green-haired boy. He said, trying to reach out a hand to you, but it was slapped away from 𝗀𝐿. Leave, he sternly said, glaring at the shorter male while he walked away with you, leaving him alone in the empty hallway. Midoriya was utterly confused. One moment you were willingly coming to him to be on his team, and next you were pushing him away and walking with his past opponent, not even sparing him a glance. Everyone saw your match with Mina, and usually whenever a fight was over, the two opponents would help the other stand or end the fight with a handshake, but your fight was brutal. You didn't even let your opponent attack, you just blasted them away, out of bounds. You didn't even check if Mina was okay, you just walked away. Your class was very tense when they saw your match, and no doubt about it, something was wrong. Todoroki had watched your match from afar, and guilt swelled up in his chest as he saw the stern glare on your face. He needed to apologize, and quick. Your next match was with Tokoyami. 𝗀𝐿 spent the rest of the time with you to calm you down. You both sat down in an empty hallway as he rubbed circles on your back while you stared at the ground with dead eyes. Hey, you'll be okay, he said as he tried to give you a small comforting smile. You looked at him a bit then looked back down. Hey, he said placing a hand on your chin, look at me. Your head was moved so that you were making eye contact with him. He gave you a small warm smile. It's going to be okay. I'm here. So don't worry, you always have me. You looked at his eyes that were decorated with his eye bags. His blazing purple hair and the warm smile that was on his face as he looked at you. He slowly pulled down your mask and gazed at your scars. He grazed his fingers gently over them. He smiled as you looked at him with wide eyes. They're appealing, don't worry. You're not a monster, not ever. He whispered. Next match. 𝐬𝐮𝐦𝐻𝐿/N versus 𝗀𝐻𝐿/𝐸. You heard through the intercom. ― slowly got up and gave a hand towards you to help you get up. Win for me, he said as he dragged you to the stadium, tugging up your mask to cover your mouth. You smiled underneath it with a determined look. I'll win for you. Our next round. We have our shadow legend. 𝗀𝐻𝐿/𝐸. The crowd cheered as Present Mike screamed into the intercom. And on the other side we have our mysterious legend, who's quick to end her opponents. 𝐬𝐿/N. You made eye contact with 𝗀𝐻𝐿, glaring at him. ― was able to calm you down a bit, but some of your anger still resided within you. You could trust no one, and even thought 𝗀𝐻𝐿 was in your team the past round, you still couldn't trust him. Begin. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 was quick to attack first, Dark Shadow. He yelled as his quirk was activated and Dark Shadow rushed towards you. He tried to land a hit but you were quick as dodged it as the ground crumbled into pieces where you last stood. ― great, now I'm covered in dust. You thought, skidding across the ground. Dark Shadow tried to attack you again but you raised a hand and touched him. He stopped in his tracks as he started to shrink, and now he was the size of a water bottle. The crowd went wild as you raised a hand and made a ball of purple energy. Flicking your wrist you sent it to 𝗀𝐻𝐿, whose eyes widened in fear. And just like Mina, he was covered with steam and pushed out of bounds. Dusting yourself off, you shoved your hands into your pockets and walked off the stadium. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 is out of bounds. ∙ gets another speedy victory. She will proceed into the finals. You made your way to waiting room. Your next match was with 𝗀𝐻𝐿. You could defeat him easily, so you didn't pay much attention to the next round. Regardless, you would win for your parents and for ―. You knew how much he wanted to win and be in the hero course. So you would win just for him. Waiting in the waiting room, the door burst open to reveal 𝗀𝐻𝐿. Oi, what are you doing here? He yelled, pointing a finger at you as you were taking out a bottle of hand sanitizer. This is room. He trailed off to see it was waiting room 2. As he was about to leave, he bumped into 𝗀𝗀. What are you doing here, you half and half bastard? He yelled while 𝗀𝗀 ignored him. I'm here for 𝐿/N, he said. What would you want with clean freak? 𝗀𝐻𝐿 said. 𝗀𝗀 turned to you and made eye contact with you while you gave him a stern glare. I want to apologize 𝐿/N. 𝗀𝐻𝐿, who was now inside the room with you, looked at you expecting a response. Slowly you walked towards the door as 𝗀𝗀 looked at you with expecting eyes, hoping that perhaps you had forgiven him. But boy, was he wrong. You reached for the door hand and slammed it in his face as he stumbled back from the force. You turned in your heel and sat back down on your seat as 𝗀𝐻𝐿 looked at you. What the hell was that for, clean freak? He yelled. You shrugged as you placed your hands on the hand sanitizer. Your fingertips had split and they were starting to bleed a bit. You squeezed some hand sanitizer and rubbed it in your hands, wincing at the stinging pain, but a hand grasped your wrist. Are you stupid? Why the hell are you using hand sanitizer, you dumbass? He said as he went to your bag in the corner of the room and took out some baby wipes. He then slammed them down on the table and stated to clean your fingers. I can't believe I'm doing this to you, he grumbled as he finished cleaning and started to bandage your fingers. Despite his fought exterior, he was gentle with his hands. You looked at your now bandaged fingers and nodded in gratitude. So what's up with you and Icy Hot? He asked. Grabbing a piece of paper, you wrote something down. He's too nosy. He doesn't seem like it. 𝗀𝐻𝐿 grumbled, placing his chin on his palm, looking away. Don't get the wrong idea, I'm gonna beat the both of you. I didn't bandage you hand because I care, I want you to go all out on our match. Only then will I become the #1 hero." You looked back down on your lap and smiled a bit under the mask. What a liar, you thought. Hey race, a drawing of how. You look in the upcoming fight scene. You and 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 left the waiting room as your match was announced. Standing across from each other, you tugged up your mask once more while he looked at you with a smirk on his face. "You better give me your all clean freak," he sneered. It's the final match. On one side we have the explosive class representative 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 Katsuki. Present Mike roared as people in the audience cheered. And on the other we have the mysterious daughter of a retired pro hero. 𝐬/𝐿/N. Begin. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 was the first to make a move as he sent a massive explosive towards you. The fire and smoke absorbed your body as you squinted your eyes to look around. In the middle of the smoke you saw 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 high up in the air ready to send another explosive towards you. "I'm gonna win this clean freak," he yelled. He sent another big explosive towards you as it engulfed more than half of the stadium. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 smirked to himself, thinking that he had won, and turned around. The smoke cleared as the crowd went silent, hoping to see your form. And to their surprise they did. In the middle of the field you stood with your right hand raised up. Before 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽's attack could hit you, you had ripped off the bandages on your right hand and absorbed his attack, leaving you standing there without a scratch. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽's eyes widened as the crowd chanted your name. He turned towards you as he got into a stance and small explosives were going off in his hands. Time to get serious, you thought as you zoomed up to him, jumping in the air with a fist as a ball of purple energy formed around your hand. With emotionless eyes you slammed your fist on the ground where 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 stood. His eyes widened as he jumped out of the way at the very last second. "She's so fast," he thought to himself, but then he smirked as he sent another round of explosive towards you. But not fast enough. Before you could react you were sent flying towards the edge from his attack. Your feet skid on the ground as you stopped yourself from moving. "CRP, I need to focus," you thought as you got up and charged towards him. You sent a ball of energy to him as he blocked it with his arms crossed in front of his face. "Give me your all clean freak. Stop lazing around," he yelled as he sent a blast towards you, to which you absorbed. You bent down with one knee on the ground. Your fingertips have split and blood was starting to flow onto the floor. You got up and sent another ball of energy to him, which he dodged. Getting up, you failed to see 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 send another massive explosive towards you. With wide eyes you placed your arms in front of you, face with your hands wide open, hoping to absorb the attack. Die. You were breathing heavily as you tugged up the mask once more and both your hands to your sides as two big balls of energy were starting to form around them. You winced as the skin around your fingers started to break more and more as the cracks were going down to your knuckles. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 on the other side of the field was starting to create a massive explosive. He smirked at you while you glared back through your masked face. "I'm not gonna lose to some clean freak like you," he yelled. As if on cue, you both ran towards each other as both of your attacks collided, and the stadium was thrown off by a massive explosion. The crowd gasped as they covered their eyes to shield them from the dust and debris that was heading their way. The W winner. Present Mike started to scan through the crowd, hoping to find someone. Once the dust cleared, they saw two figures. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 was weakly clutching his side while you were hunched over, breathing heavily under your dirty mask. You, with more energy, walked towards 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽, who weakly raised a fist to you, but you caught it with your hand, absorbing his last remaining energy. "Sleep," you thought as his body went limp, falling onto the ground. 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽 is immobile and the winner is 𝐬/𝐿/N. Present Mike screamed through the intercom as the crowd went wild. You dusted yourself off as the staff took away 𝐻𝐵𝐻𝐽's unconscious body. Your hands smeared blood all over your P uniform as you sighed. "Great, this is going to take forever to clean," you thought to yourself as you made your way out of the stadium to rush to the bathroom. Once there you quickly washed your hands under cold water, wincing at the pain as you disinfected them, dried them off and bandaged your fingers all the way to your wrist. Then placing lac fabric gloves onto top. Next you took off your dirty black mask and washed your face. Reaching into your bag you took out some baby wipes and wiped off the sweat and dirt from your face, arms and neck. Last but not least you placed on your normal medical mask and walked out of the bathroom. Your parents were outside of the bathroom waiting for you. They turned to you and your mom gave you a big hug. "I'm so proud of you, my baby," she squealed as she tightly embraced you. "You did well. And you even got first place," your dad said as he ruffled your hair. You nodded as your mom pulled away from you. "Come on, you have some time before the award ceremony, why don't you hang out with your class?" she asked as she pat your back. You tensed at the mention of your class. You didn't know how to face them after your encounter with Todoroki. And frankly, you wanted nothing to do with them. It felt like a stab in the back. You tugged on your dad's sleeve as you turned to look down at you. You hadn't spoken to your parents for 3 years, so you took this opportunity. Parting your lips under your mask, you spoke. "Dad." You spoke in a whisper. Your parents' eyes widened as they looked down at you. Your mom placed her hands on your shoulders and leaned into your face. "Did you just speak?" she stuttered. "Mom." You weakly spoke out. Your mom embraced you tightly and pat your head as tears fell down your cheek. "I'm so glad," she said. "I thought I'd never hear your voice again." Your dad walked up to you and embraced you and your mom. Looking down at you, his eyes swelled up with tears and a big smile. "We missed you," he spoke as tears pricked in your eyes. "Dad." You spoke out as you clutched onto their clothes tighter. Silence enveloped you three as you stayed in each other's embrace. But then you spoke up. "See, can we go home?" You whispered. What's wrong, baby? What about the ceremony?" Your mom said, pulling away from you as concern was written in her eyes. Someone saw. As you screwed your eyes shut and clenched your fists. Your dad placed a hand on your shoulder with a reassuring smile. "M/N take Y/N to the car, I'll pick up her medal for her," your dad said as he ruffled your hair. You inwardly smiled under your mask as your mom placed a hand on your shoulder, rubbing it up and down in a comforting manner. "It's okay, Y/N, she said as she gave you a warm smile. "Now come on. What do you want for dinner?" "What should I make my little winner?" This is so exciting. It's the first time I've heard you call me mom, and you got first place in the sports festival. "Tell mommy what you want, I'll make everything." You chuckled as you let your mom drag you to the car. "Man, I really have the best parents," you thought to yourself as your mom continued to ramble. With the others, they had waited for the award ceremony to begin. They wanted to congratulate you on your performance and were eager to see you get your medal. However, they were shocked to see that it was only Bakugo, who was chained up, and Todoroki on the stage as they were being lifted up. Where's Y/N? Kaminari asked. "Didn't she win first place?" Ojiro said. "Yeah, she did. She beat Bakugo." Mina said. Midoriya stayed quiet. After his encounter with you and 𝗀𝗡, and now this. There definitely was something wrong. "Guys, I think something's wrong," he said. "Well, no, 𝐻T, she's not on the stage." So you said. "Now that you mention it, she never came to the stand to watch any of the other matches." Uraraka said. "Yeah, and after every match she just left." Kirishima said. Todoroki, who was being handed a bronze medal, couldn't help but flinch slightly when she saw that the first place spot was empty. Guilt flooded him as he thought back to your encounter. "Don't touch me. You're disgusting." Your voice echoed in his mind. Your dad had made it to the middle of the stage as All Might was done giving the medal to Todoroki. "All Might," your dad said as he patted his shoulder. "Retired hero Energizer." All Might said. "What?" Your classmates exclaimed from the stand as they heard the exchange. Y/N's dad is Energizer. Kaminari gaped. "The past number 3 hero." Kirishima said. "Wow, we really know nothing about her." Tokoyami said with a visible sweat drop. "Anyway, All Might, my little baby isn't feeling very well because of that. So she's gonna go home. Is it okay if I pick up her medal for her?" Your dad said. Todoroki and Bakugo's eyes widened. What did your dad mean by that? Bakugo, who was confused, started to struggle more in his restraints while Todoroki stood still in thought. Maybe it has to do with those scars. He thought to himself. Why, of course. Tell young Y/N that I hope she feels better. All Might said as he handed your dad the medal. Thanks, buddy. Let's catch up sometime. Let me buy you a drink. Your dad said as he waved back and exited the stadium. The sports festival ended and Class 1A was left with even more thoughts in their mind about you. Just who are you 𝐬𝐿/N? The next day you didn't come to school. As a matter of fact, you didn't come to school the day after that either. You stayed at home while your parents gave you some time to collect your thoughts. They knew this was hard for you, so being the loving parents they are, they gave you some space. Your class was starting to get suspicious as you missed 2 days on school in a row. Todoroki looked at your empty seat beside him as he clenched his fists. He was hoping that you would come so that he could apologize, but after what happened at the sports festival and your absence in school, he realized just how much he had hurt you that day. Aizawa sighed. He was informed that you weren't feeling well because of that, and he saw the effect it had on his students. "Hey," he sternly said. "Focus, she's fine, she just isn't feeling well." The class sighed as they went to go back to paying attention to the teacher. The lunch bell rang as the class started to pack up to go to lunch. 𝗀𝐿 had walked past the classroom with his hands stuffed in his pockets. "Wait. 𝗀𝐿." Midoriya yelled as the said man stopped in his track to look inside, only to see the green-haired male walk towards him. "What?" He glared at the shorter male. "Did you know where 𝐬𝐿/N is?" He stuttered. 𝗀𝐿's glare intensified as he snarled at the question. "Don't use her first name like that as if you know her," he said as he glared down at the boy. "WTF?" Midoriya shrunk. "What do you mean me and 𝐬𝐿/N are friends?" 𝗀𝐿 dryly chuckled. "Friends? Some friends you are. What the hell are you talking about, you DMN side character?" Bakugo yelled as he made his way towards 𝗀𝐿. "I'm talking about your class," he said as he glared back. "You can't keep your DMN nose out of someone's business. 𝗀𝐿 had texted you during the 2 days you were gone to calm you down and make you feel better. You appreciated it a lot, but you didn't feel ready to face your class. You felt that if you walked in, they would tear you apart and try to expose your vulnerability to the world." He clenched his fists, remembering how frightened you were at the UA festival. "Wait, what do you mean? We haven't done anything," Mina said. "Whether it was you or whether it was someone else. You all are the same in Class 1, always thinking you're high and mighty, thinking you can get whatever you want because of your dumb quirks," 𝗀𝐿 said. Bakugo then remembered how tense you were around Todoroki during the time he spent with you in the waiting room. "He's too nosy." He remembered you writing it down on a piece of paper. Enraged, he walked up to Todoroki as grabbed him by the collar. "What the hell did you do, you half and half be?" he yelled. "Bakugo, calm down," Kirishima said. "No, it's him," Bakugo yelled, pointing a finger at Todoroki, who looked down in shame. "At the waiting room before the final match, I saw him try to apologize to Clean Freak, but she slammed the door on him. I didn't mean to," he said softly. "What did you do, Todoroki?" Momo asked as she looked to the left to face him. Todoroki was about to speak, but 𝗀𝐿 walked up to him, placing a hand on top of his mouth. "Not word." 𝗀𝐿 glared at the boy as he roughly took off his hand, shoving his hands into his pocket, making his way towards the door to leave. "You're disgusting," 𝗀𝐿 snarled as he walked out, leaving Todoroki alone in his shame. You lay down in your bed as you stared up in the ceiling. Your eyes were emotionless as you slowly lifted up your fingers and grazed them against the scars. "I wish I could go back in time," you thought as you rolled onto your side. Your phone dinged as you turned around to pick it up. Turning it on, you picked up, looked at the bright screen, and saw it was from Aizawa. From Aizawa: "Hey, I know you're not feeling well, but you need to start coming back to class, you little brat. I spoke to Todoroki for him to keep quiet, so you don't need to worry. Here are your results from the festival. Good job, kid. 𝐬𝐿/N 6547. Anyways, I've attached the list, so pick one and text me who you want to intern with and pick out a hero name. I'll see you soon, brat, feel better." You chuckled lightly as you clicked on the attachment with the list of heroes. Of course, there were the top 10 heroes that had wanted you. You looked the list. Definitely not Maruko. She was part animal, and you knew from experience from when she babysat you that she was someone who easily got dirty. Hawks was definitely someone you would like to have fun with, but his feathers always got in your mouth and hair whenever you hung around him. And who knows how many things his feathers have touched. He respected your parents a lot since your dad was the number 3 hero before him, and he always pestered you to hang out with him and eat chicken. 𝗀𝗏𝐸 was probably one of your favorites since he was always clean and put together. He made sure to keep his place clean and he always had a bottle of hand sanitizer with him. But you didn't think he'd be a right pick for you, quirks-wise. You then scrolled to see 𝗏𝗏𝐸. You didn't really like him, especially after that encounter you had with your dad at the festival. But then again, he is the number 2 hero. And heat kills germs, so why not? Besides, there's no way that Todoroki would in turn with his dad, right? You didn't want to see Todoroki at all, so based off of how much Todoroki seemed to hate his dad, you assumed that you would be safe from him. And besides, you wanted to see how your quirk would be against fire, and you wondered if you could absorb the energy of fire without burning your fingers. Sighing, you typed in 𝗏𝗏𝐸's name and you being the lazy but you were, just used your first name as a hero name, too tired to think of one. Once your message was sent, you closed your eyes and drifted off to sleep. This is going to be a long 3 years. 𝐻/and wake up. You opened your eyes as they met with your place olive green ceiling. Your mother knocked your door and opened it slightly. Sweetie, I know that you're not feeling well, but come on, you should try to go to school. Internships are starting soon. She turned to see your clock above her head. It's 10, I'll talk to Aizawa to excuse your tardiness. At least go for the last few hours. She gave you a small smile as you sighed and nodded your head. She walked in your room as you slowly sat up. She sat across from you and placed a hand on your cheek. Her thumb was caressing the scars. You looked down, but she placed a hand on your chin, forcing you to make eye contact with her. Don't worry, baby. I'm always here for you, me and your father. You know that, right? She said. You lowered your gaze and nodded. Getting up, she walked out of your room with a small smile. Getting out of bed, you went to the bathroom, washed up, and putting your uniform on. Looking in the mirror, you looked at your reflection. There were visible dark circles under your emotionless eyes, and the 2 scars on your face. You took out a medical mask as placed it on your face. Opening up the first aid kit, you replaced the bandages on your hands with new ones and placed black medical gloves on them. The hallways were empty as people were still in class. Sighing, you quietly made your way to your class, dragging your feet, and you dreaded the feeling of their eyes piercing into you. As you were slowly making your way to your class, you weren't looking ahead of you, so you accidentally bumped into someone. I'm sorry. You looked up and you were met with blue eyes and blonde hair. Behind him was another male with bluish-purple hair and a girl with light blue hair. You bowed in apology at the blonde. Oh, you're that first year who won at the sports festival. The girl said, coming closer to you. You internally panicked at the closeness and nodding nervously, raising your hands up defensively. Oh, I remember. Your quirk was so cool. The blonde said, as the other male nervously looked up at you and back down. Taking out your notepad, you wrote something down. Thank you. Oh, you're not much of a talker, huh? The girl said with a smile. Your quirk was so cool. What is it? Why are your hands bandaged? Does it have to do with your mask? You visibly flinched at the last question. Looking at the ground, you subconsciously tugged up your mask, avoiding their gaze. A certain elf-eared boy caught this and placed a hand on the girl's shoulder. 𝗏𝗏𝐸, why you shouldn't ask those quitxz questions? You're making her uncomfortable. He stuttered out. Oh, sorry. I'm just excited to know more about you. She said. What if your quirk, by the way? The blonde asked. You wrote in your notepad. Drainage. How does that work? The girl you presumed named 𝗏𝗏𝐸 asked. I can drain energy and use it as my own. Whoa, that's so cool. The blonde and girl said. Why yeah? That's a powerful Q quirk. The other male said. I'm 𝗏𝗏𝐸 and this is Tamaki Amajiki. She gestured to the elf-eared boy next to her. I'm Mirio Togata. We're 3rd years. The blonde said. You bowed and wrote something down. My name is 𝐻/and L/N. It's nice to meet you, senpais. The girl said, waving you off. You should get to class, it's late. We'll see you around L/N, the blonde said. It's nice to meet you, L/N, Tamaki said as they walked away. You finally made it to your door. Inhaling sharply, you pumped some hand sanitizer on your hands and knocked on the big door. There was a moment of silence until you heard Aizawa's voice roughly say, Come in. You opened the door as 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴 looked at you, with a small smile on his face. It's nice to see you again, 𝐿/N. Your mother has informed me you're for tardiness. Just get to your seat. Nodding, you avoided everyone's gaze and careful made your way to your desk, slightly spraying it with cleansing alcohol. You felt multiple stares on you as you flinched, slightly shifting in your seat, feeling uncomfortable, not noticing a specific dual-haired male staring at you intently. Once the lunch bell rang, you started to pack your bag and take out your bento, only to be greeted with a bunch of people all up in your face. OMG Y/N-chan. I was so worried. Mina exclaimed. We missed you so much. Kaminari whined. I hope you're feeling better. I'll treat you some time. Kirishima said with a wide grin. I'm sorry if we upset you. Uraraka said. You inwardly smiled as you waved them off, taking out a notepad. You wrote, It's okay. I just wasn't feeling well. Y/N-chan, I wrote some class N notes for you while you were gone. Midoriya said as he handed you a notebook. Don't worry. I sanitized it for you. Before you could respond, you felt a tap on your shoulder. You slightly flinched but turned around to see Sato, who had a smile on his face. I made you this to make you feel better. I hope you like it. I wasn't sure about what you liked, so I made different flavors. Sato said as he held out a small pink box that had clear plastic on top so you could see the contents, and a white bow on top of it. It was filled with multicolored macaroons, neatly placed in with white baking paper. Don't worry, I made sure to clean and sanitize everything before I cooked. Before you could thank him, Kaminari and Mina called out your name. Y/N-chan. Turning around, you were met face to face with a Pikachu plushie. Me and Mina went out to buy you this to help you feel better. Kaminari said. Don't worry. We washed it beforehand and sprayed it with cleansing alcohol so it's clean just how you like it. Mina said. A hand has started to chop the air in front of you. It's not good to be skipping classes. But I'm glad you're feeling better. Ida said with a weak smile. Something's off. You thought. But I won't pry. Everyone was flooding your desk as they placed the sweets, notebook, and plushie on your desk. You looked down at your desk and then rose your head up to see your classmates giving you wide smiles with anticipation. Your eyes widened. This was the first time people had gone out of their way to make you feel better. Usually people were too scared to approach you. A warm feeling erupted inside of you as you clenched your fists, and you parted your lips under your lips. You think? Why owe you? You stuttered out. Your classmates' yes widened, until a wide smile made a way to their faces. Y/N-chan, did you just talk? Oh my god. You spoke. This is the first time. Y/N-chan's first word to us. They chattered among themselves. You smiled under your mask, looking down at the gifts that you had gotten from your friends. Maybe it won't be bad to keep a few friends. You thought. Okay, listen up. You were currently all outside as people were taking their respective trains to their internships. Make sure to behave yourselves all right. Izawa said as a chorus of yesers came after. Clutching your case with your hero costume, you made your way to your bus. Sitting down on an empty seat you had cleaned beforehand, you closed your eyes, waiting for the train to start. Before you could drift off, you felt a tap on your shoulder. Opening one eye, your face paled. In front of you was the person you dreaded seeing the most. Todoroki Shoto. He looked at you with an unreadable expression and pointed at the seat next to you. Can I sit here? You wanted to decline, but your body moved against your mind as you slowly nodded your head, clutching your case and shifting all the way to the window so there was as much space between you and him as possible. He sat down as lowered his gaze with an expression of guilt. Your body flinched slightly as you looked out the window while tugging up your mask even more. SHT. Please tell me he's not working for Endeavor. I mean, the dude literally hates the guy. You cursed to yourself as your eyes hardened. The bus ride was silent, not one of you uttering a word. And once at your stop you waited for him to get off and gave him a few seconds before you got off the bus as well. He was a few feet ahead of you as you trailed along behind him. Your eyes widened as you slowly made your way to your destination, only to see Todoroki open the door to walk in. He turned his head towards you and gestured for you to come in as he held the door open for you. You flinched and slowly walked and avoided his gaze. You're interning with Endeavor. he asked as he walked beside you, to which you scooted away from him. You nodded your head as you looked straight ahead of you. I guess we'll be working together then, he said as you made your way to the elevator. He walked in first as you trailed behind him, scooting the other side as much as possible to avoid him. The elevator was going up as silence enveloped the two of you. Look, he spoke but was cut off as the elevator doors opened. He sighed. Never mind. Walking out, you both walked out of the elevator and walked towards two big double doors. Todoroki pushed open the doors as you both went into the Endeavor's office. Scanning the room, you took in how big his office was, and how much of an ego this dude had. Seriously, this guy needs someone to fact-check him. You sweat dropped as you saw the expensive layout of his office. In the middle of the room was Endeavor as he stood, glancing outside the window, then noticed your presence as he slowly turned around to face you. A visible grin was on his face as he looked at you. Shoto, 𝐿/N. I'm happy to see that you made a wise choice to come to my agency, he said. Perhaps you could get to know 𝐬𝐻. He was cut off by you pulling out a notepad with some words written on them. I'm not here to start anything with your son. I didn't even know he applied here. A visible frown grew on Endeavor's face as he read your notepad. 𝐬𝐻, regardless, I think you'll work well under me. I expect great things from you. He gave you a stern look while looking back at Shoto, who happened to be looking at the ground. Now come with me. We will start off with the basics for hero training, and by the end of your internship I expect you to know how to save, rescue, and attack any villain that comes your way. Understood? He said as he turned his back towards you two. Shoto whispered a yes, while you nodded your head, as you both followed him down the hallway. This is going to be such a troublesome week. You internally groaned, not noticing the male behind you looking at you with a sad look. I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you get here on time, Endeavor said as the first internship was finished. Shoto, I'll see you at home. You both walked out of his agency, awkwardly walking next to each other, you scooting away from him to avoid his gaze. This entire day you had noticed that he kept an eye on you. It was creepy, and you felt like he was judging you, especially after what he saw at the sports festival. You were about to make a turn but was stopped. 𝐿/N. You turned around to see Todoroki pursing his lips, trying to find the words to say to you. Slowly walking towards you, he lowered his gaze. He started. I'm sorry about what I did. Your eyes widened. He raised his head and looked into your eyes. I didn't think that you'd be this distraught about it, and I know it wasn't my place to invade your privacy. He slightly bowed his head, and for that I deeply apologize. There was a moment of silence as he slowly rose his head up. He paused, when I saw your scar. It reminded me of mine, and I noticed you looking at mine during class. He rose a hand as his hands grazed against his left eye. I know what it's like to be ashamed of these things, and well, I was hoping that perhaps that. You took out a notepad. I won't lie, Todoroki, I was upset. He flinched a bit, reading you words, lowering his gaze. But thank you for apologizing. I appreciate it. He relaxed after you lifted up the notepad to his eyes. Thank you, 𝐿/N, and these scars. Please don't tell anyone. I'm not ready to talk about it, but when the time is right I'll tell you guys everything. He nodded. Of course, 𝐿/N. I won't push it anymore. You smiled a bit under your mask, tugging it up, feeling the tension around you to be lifted. A calm, comfortable silence engulfed you both as you walked side by side down the street. I didn't know you had applied for Endeavor, Todoroki said. I didn't know you applied either. I'm surprised. After what happened at the sports festival with the whole Quirk marriage thing. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. He's a bit. Don't worry, you should find someone you want rather than forcing yourself to like someone. He smiled slightly, but it faltered quickly as he opened his mouth to speak again. I didn't know your parents were in a Quirk marriage, he said. They seem so different from my parents. You stopped. After hearing him talk about his scar during the sports festival, and hearing what your dad had said during the sport festival, it clicked. Endeavor was a bad guy that was masked up as a good guy. Sure, he saved people, sure he was a hero, but that doesn't excuse his actions, and the mental and emotional, and some would argue, even physical abuse that he inflicted onto his family. With a pitiful look you wrote, "Yeah." Thankfully they were secretly dating before the whole Quirk marriage thing. "That's good," he said. "My father calls me his greatest masterpiece. He bought my mother so that he could have a child to surpass all might. Every memory of my mother is her sad. She went insane and poured boiling water on my left side because it reminded her too much of my father, and now she's at the hospital. I don't ever want to use my left side, but Midoriya helped open my eyes at the sports festival." He looked down. "To be honest, Todoroki didn't plan on making any friends in UA, but you had piqued his interest. He didn't know why he was telling you all of these things about his family, his dad, his mom, but the calm aura that you gave off made him unusually calm. And he felt some sort of a connection to you, since you both had scars. I'm sorry to hear." You paused, and he stared at you slowly, writing a bit longer than usual. "You don't have to force yourself to follow your father's dream. You may hate your left side because it reminds you of how much your mother had suffered because of him, but it's your quirk. You're not your father, you're better than him. Prove to him that you'll use your quirk, not for him but for you." His eyes widened as he read through your words. You wrote again. "Do what makes you happy, do what you want. Your happiness and your desires are the most important thing. Surpass your father, and prove to him that you're a better person, hero, partner, than him. Do it for your mother." Todoroki let out a small gasp, but you looked at him with a blank expression. A small smile formed on his lips. "Thank you, 𝐿/N." He rubbed his palms together. "I'd actually like to visit my mother one day. I'm a bit nervous though." "Don't be, I'm sure she'll be happy to see you. She's your mother, she loves you no matter what." With a smile on his face, you both walked side by side down the streets. "Thank you 𝐿/N. I enjoy talking to you. I'd like to visit my mother with you one day." A small smile made its way to your lips under your mask. Tugging up your mask, you wrote, "I'd love to. You've become more open lately." He said, "What do you mean?" "Well, when you first came, we all thought you hated us. But today you seem more talkative and less tense." He said, "It's nice." You just shrugged as you both stopped at a street. "I hope to hear your voice again one day 𝐿/N. I shall see you tomorrow," he said as you both parted ways. You walked down your street to your house. "Will I be able to smile in front of them one day?" It was late as you were walking home after your internship. Tugging up your mask, you looked up at the sky to see it littered with stars. A small smile crept up your face, and before you knew it you had bumped into someone. "Watch where you're going," the voice said. Stumbling back, you looked up to see red eyes. They glared down at you as you dusted yourself off. "Oh, it's just you," Bakugo said. Only then did you notice his hair that had been neatly pushed down to look flat. You looked away, trying not to laugh, but it come out as a cough. "Don't laugh at me, you clean freak, I saw that," he yelled as he raised a fist towards you. Katsuki, stop yelling. You both turned to see a similar ash-blonde woman with her arms crossed yelling. "Ah, this must be his mother," you thought to yourself. "Don't tell me what to do, you old hag," Bakugo yelled back as you took a step back. "Geez, he's even like this towards his mother," you thought as you watched the two argue back and forth, sweat dropping at the scene. Then his mother turned towards you and gave a big smile, then smacked the back of Bakugo's head. "Don't hit me, you old hag," he yelled. "Shut up. You didn't tell me you brought someone over. And a girl too," she said as she smacked the back of his head. "As if I'd be friends with 𝐼𝐻𝐻 extra like her," he yelled, glaring at her. "And I didn't bring her over, we just bumped into each other." "Oh, shush," she said, then looked towards you. "Hi. I'm Bakugo Mitsuki, Katsuki's mom. It's so nice to meet you." You nodded, then bowed, taking out your notepad. You wrote, "It's a pleasure to meet you, Bakugo-san. My name is 𝐿/N I attend UA with your son." "Oh, you're so polite," she said as she placed a hand on her cheek. "You must not talk a lot, but that's okay. 𝐶HDM clean freak doesn't talk at all," Bakugo said as he looked away towards the ground, glaring at it. Come in. I'd like to get to know you more," she said as she waving a hand to signal a welcome into her home. "I would have want to intrude." "Nonsense. Don't worry. You seem like such a nice girl." she said as she pulled Katsuki by the arm. Don't just go inviting her, you old hag. 𝐻𝐿 yelled, trying to get out of her grasp. Shut up, Katsuki, she said. Make yourself at home. You sighed, wanting to be respectful. You slowly inched towards the house as you pumped some hand sanitizer into your gloved hands and walked in, taking off your shoes. Who's this? A brown-haired male with glasses walked into the living room. Oh, this is 𝐿/New York/in, Katsuki's friend. His mom said. She's not my friend. He yelled. Oh, nice to meet you, I'm 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴, Katsuki's dad. He said. You nodded and bowed, taking to your notepad. It's a pleasure to meet you, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐴-san. I attend UA with your son, and thank you for letting me into your home. It's quite lovely. Thank you, he said. Isn't she so polite? Unlike Katsuki, she said as she sent a glare his way. Shut up, old hag. Come on, clean freak, let's go to my room. As he walked up the stairs. You gave one last bow towards his parents and walked up the stairs slowly. Going into his room, you scrunched your nose a bit, not familiar with your surroundings. Your fingers itched to clean his room as you shuddered at the sight. It wasn't necessarily dirty, you were just a germaphobe, so being in a new environment with someone else's germs made you slightly panicked. Wait here, I need to get something from the kitchen. He grumbled as he left the room. Once he left, you quickly opened your training bag that you had used at Endeavor's agency and took out your cleaning supplies, a couple of disinfectant wipes, a bottle of cleansing alcohol, and clean towel. In the corner of his room, you stopped a broom. You went to work, sweeping the floor for any dust, then cleaning his floor and table. Then to the door handle and shelves. Once done with those, you wiped his bed frame and chair. You were almost done when you heard 2 pairs of footsteps coming up the stairs. What are you doing? You turned to see 𝐒𝐿 with his mom, who happened to have an aura of flowers around her, looking at her son's now clean room. But you didn't have to clean his room. But you did an amazing job, she said as she looked around. It was almost like everything had sparkles around them. Satisfied with your work, you gave his a thumbs up. Don't thumbs up me, he yelled. Then his mother smacked his head. Be grateful that she cleaned your room for you, you brat. I didn't ask her to, he yelled back as they started to argue. Anyways, his mother said, why don't you stay for dinner 𝐿/n? She asked you, looking your way. So you thought. I didn't think this through. But before you said anything, 𝐒𝐿 cut you out of your thoughts. She doesn't eat in front of people, and besides, she should go home. He grumbled. You mentally thanked him for covering for you. Oh, is that so? She then turned to you. Well, I hope you come over more. You're welcomed anytime. It was nice to have you around. Then she left the room, walking downstairs. This dumbhead doesn't know better, he grumbled, shoving his hands into his pockets. Shrugging, you took off your gloves, only to wince slightly. Your split fingers must have opened again while you were cleaning. Taking off your gloves, you saw a bit of crimson seeping through the white bandages around your hands. They hadn't healed properly after the sports festival. Trying to remove them to replace them with new ones, a hand grabbed your wrist. You can't even take care of yourself, 𝐒𝐿 grumbled. He turned around to open his closet, taking a first aid kit out. Don't take this the wrong way, you're dumb but doesn't know how to clean your wounds properly. And I can't stand watching you pour hand sanitizer all over your wounds. Your eyes widened for a split second before going back to its original size. You looked down at your right hand that was being held by his as he slowly started to take off your bandages, revealing your cut-up hands. He sighed as he took a clean towel and wiped the blood away, then taking a cotton ball to disinfect it. You flinched a bit, taking your hand back as he tried to clean your wound. Glaring at you, he roughly grasped your wrist again, bringing it towards him. Stop being a demon baby. 𝐶K up the pain, he said as he cleaned it again. Once done, he wrapped it in the white bandage and proceeded to do your other hand. Demon Quirk, he mumbled under his breath as you looked at him tending to your wound. You couldn't help but smile a bit under your mask. You had always thought he was some rude, angry dog that was all bite, but here he was, taking care of your wounds. Once he was done, you looked down at your hands that were covered with white bandage. Now leave my house, clean freak, he muttered under his breath. You looked up at him, then lowered your gaze. Thank you, you whispered, avoiding his gaze. His eyes widened a bit before a small tint of blush made its way to his cheek. It was the first time hearing your voice, and it sounded. It was soft and gentle, like a summer breeze. 𝐶 whatever, make sure you learn how to clean your own DMN wounds. He muttered as he stood up and put the first aid kit back into his closet. You stood up and grasped your duffel bag as you both made your way downstairs. Waving goodbye to the family and bowing once again, thanking his parents for letting you stay. Thank you for cleaning his room, his mother said. It's no worry. You wrote down. 𝐶 don't die clean freak. He muttered as you walked down the street towards your house. He's not that bad. You thought as a ghost of a smile made its way on your lips. Tugging up your mask once more you looked up at the sky. Somewhere else. I'm telling you this DMN girl just blasted away the 𝗏𝗏. A pale blue-haired male said. That can't be right, it was designed to kill All Might, how could a mere girl just destroy it? A mist said leaning against the bar. The group was huddled around the bar discussing the events. 𝐶, the pale blue-haired male said, this is ridiculous. He slammed a fist on the counter. I wonder how her BLD looks like. A crazed blonde, with 2 buns in her hair said as she twirled a knife in the air. I want her. I want her to join. Shigaraki said. Let's see what she's capable of. With her, we'd be unstoppable. Good morning, sweetie. You groggily opened your eyes to see your mom sitting down on the bed next to you. Slowly lifting your body up in a sitting position, you rubbed the drowsiness from your eyes. Giving you a warm smile, you placed something in your hands. Dad got this from a friend in Island. It's a new mask that is more comfortable to wear and made up of special material. It'll protect you more than the usual medical mask you always wear. She said as you looked down at the new piece of fabric you were holding. It was a dark gray mask that was skin-tight and very flexible. It was clean and thin, so that you could breathe easily. This would go great with my hero costume. You thought as you tried it on for the first time. Since you're interning with Endeavor, I wanted to get you something that was flame-proof since you'll be working with that forehead. Your mother grumbled, letting out a scoff. Truthfully, your mother was high school friends with Rei, Todoroki's mother, but they separated after Endeavor has bought her for a Quirk marriage. She didn't really like Endeavor, and neither did your father. Thanking your mother, you went to go get ready for school. You looked down at your bandaged hands that still had the bandages from Bakugo's house. Smiling to yourself, you picked up your bag, placed on some black medical gloves and headed to school. Walking along the road, a voice called out to you. Clean freak. Turning around, you were faced with red eyes that glared at you just a few feet away. Stopping for him to catch up, you gave him a nod of acknowledgement. 𝐶, I don't want to be seen near you, he said as he walked past you. You shrugged as you trailed behind him a couple steps back. Both of you walking in silence as you took in your surroundings, while you heard the male in front of you grumbling under his breath. Oi, how's the hand? He asked. Looking down at your hands, you took out a piece of paper and wrote. They're doing better, thank to you. Don't take it the wrong way, I wasn't helping you, he said as he looked over his shoulder to glare at you. Also, why aren't you talking? You talked yesterday. Your body tensed as you listened to him. I just prefer not to speak. You wrote. He read the notepad and scoffed, turning his head around and continued to walk until the school gates came into view. Once your classroom was in view, Bakugo walked in first and you came in after. In the corner of your eye you saw Ida looking a bit distraught. I remember. His brother was on the news. You thought to yourself. Slowly you made your way to his desk until you were right in front of him. He looked up from his gaze to see you looking down at him with a blank expression. Hello, 𝐻/N-san, how may I help you? He asked. Taking out your notepad, you wrote a few words, then turned it around for him to see. I'm doing all right, thank you. But are you okay? He grimaced, his nose scrunched up a bit after reading the words on the paper. I'm doing well, actually, don't worry, he said, giving you a small reassuring smile. What a liar. You thought, picking up your pencil once more and writing again. I won't push you the matter since it is none of my business. But I saw the news of your brother. I send my apologizes to you and your family. I hope he is doing well. His smile faltered reading the words as he lowered his gaze to look down at his desk. My brother. He's in the hospital, immobile. He softly whispered under his breath. Ida, I hope you are not thinking about doing anything rash. But my brother. It's not fair. Because of that stupid hero killer, my brother's life has been ruined. He can't even walk properly. I can't just dash. You cut him off by shoving the notepad in his face with a stern look. How would your brother feel about this? How would he feel if you were to get hurt as well, just because you wanted to avenge your brother? I understand that you're feeling frustrated right now, but you need to think about the well-being of your brother first, rather than your revenge. You actively going out to harm someone makes you the better person. Although your words were harsh, you knew they needed to be said. Please don't let your emotions cloud what is truly important to you. Right now your brother's well-being and safety should be the #1 priority instead of your revenge. Ida's eyes widened as he read each word from your notepad. Truth be told, he was interning in Hosu and he promised himself if he did see the hero killer, Stain, he would do whatever it took to take him down. His emotions were clouding his mind, pushing him to do something rash. He knew you were right, but he just didn't want to admit it. He lowered his gaze to avoid your eyes as he looked at the wall beside him. Thinking you had done your part, you walked away from his desk to yours and started to clean it. Thinking back, you didn't know why you approached him. You weren't the type to meddle in other people's affairs and certainly not the type to give advice to people, but this class had somewhat changed you. Their consideration, their perseverance, their kindness. It was very overwhelming, but you found yourself at times happy. They were the first to take your germaphobia into consideration. Yes, they were pushy, and not to mention that incident with Todoroki, they were still kind, even going out of their way to adjust to your lifestyle, and you appreciated it. Every time they put hand sanitizer to approach you, or whenever they cleaned something. Before they gave it to you, or maintaining a distance between you, or even providing you a paper and pencil whenever you wanted to talk. It was nice, and you found yourself wanting to be a part of them. But the things that you want don't always come easy. Eventually you'll have to tell them your secrets, and remove your mask. What if they find you disgusting? What if they push you away? Would you still be able to smile in front of them? You were cut out of your thoughts by a knock on your desk. Looking up, you say a pair of blue and gray eyes. Good morning, 𝐿/N-san. Todoroki said, giving you a ghost of a smile. You nodded in response as your beating heart filled with worry stated to calm down. No. I don't want to lose them. I want to continue smiling. You thought. Class went on. The lunch bell rang and as usual, Mina and Midoriya asked if you wanted to eat lunch with them while you declined. Come on, 𝐬/N-chan, you never eat lunch with us, Mina whined. Now I'm sure she has her reasons. 𝐻𝐿 said, placing an invisible hand on her shoulders. We'd really like to get to know you more, 𝐬/N-chan. Midoriya said with a flushed face. Please, 𝐬/N-chan. I'll pay for your food. Kaminari said, and both he and Mina kneeled down on the floor. You took a step back, sweat dropping at the scene. It's okay, 𝐬/N, take your time, we'll be waiting for you. Kirishima said as he placed a comforting hand on your shoulder, giving you a wide smile. You couldn't help but smile back under your mask. By the way, nice mask. He said. I noticed you changed it. She looks so mysterious with that body of hers and that mask, kinda hot. Mineta said, drooling. You looked at him in utter disgust as you took out a spray bottle of cleansing alcohol and spray his face. He screeched in pain while the others laughed. Bowing, you took out a notepad. Sorry I can't eat with you guys, but thank you for the offer. Nodding at the once more, you left the classroom to go to your usual spot with your bento. Once you were near the tree, you saw some leaning their head against the trunk with a gloomy aura around him. He looked distraught, but he had a familiar tuft of bluish-purple hair. I remember, he's one of the seniors I met. I think his name was Tamaki. You thought as you approached him. He is muttering to himself, and you lightly tapped his shoulder. He winced and turned his head slightly as he looked at you. I am so sorry. I didn't notice you. He said as he took a step back. I'll leave dash. He was cut off by his stomach growling. His face flushed red as he squatted down on the base of the tree, covering his face with his hands. Are you alright? You wrote down. I forgot my lunch. He said, lowering his gaze to look at the ground. And my friends are absent today. You sat down a couple feet next to him and opened your lunch. Inside were 4 cut-up sandwiches that were neatly placed together with cherry tomatoes placed in the side. 2 were katsu while the other 2 were egg. You had originally made these to charge with Hitoshi, but he wasn't here today, so you took one of each and handed them to the stuttering male next to you. He looked at you for a bit before his eyes widened and he raised his hands. It's okay. I don't wanna cause you any trouble. You shook your head as you took out a napkin and placed them on the grass next to him. I'm sorry. I'm such a failure, he said as he lowered his gaze. You're not. I think you're pretty cool. You wrote. I saw a couple videos of you fighting. You have a powerful quirk. Thank you, he said as he slowly took a bite from your sandwich. Have some confidence in yourself, senpai. You're an amazing hero, you said, giving him a ghost of a smile underneath your mask. Tamaki's nerves calmed down as he read your words. Oddly, your silence was comforting to him. Since he always had trouble talking to people, it was nice to have a silent conversation with someone. The kindness that you showed him warmed his heart and he couldn't help but flush red while eating your sandwich. This is really good, he thought to himself as he took another bite. Why isn't she eating? Aren't why you eating? He whispered, feeling guilty that perhaps you had given him your entire lunch. Don't worry, I already ate, these were just some extras I had. You lied, trying not to worry the already shaken male that was next to you. Although he was older than you, he couldn't help but respect your choice on words, and how you were able to make him feel so relaxed. What a terrible senior I am, he thought to himself, feeling his gloomy aura return as he filled himself with self-doubt. You looked at him and noticed a purple aura surround him. As if you had read his mind, you took out your notepad. Don't feel down about yourself, senpai. I really look up to you, you make me want to be a hero myself. You wrote. You had heard stories about the big 3, and after meeting them one day, you took it upon yourself to see a few videos of them fighting. It was nice and you found yourself drawn towards Tamaki's quirk. It was interesting and kind of like yours. Both of you were able to take something and use it as your own, and for that you found yourself drawn towards him. The rest of lunch was spent in comfortable silence as you sat there with your uneaten sandwiches, while he sat trying to calm down his beating heart. Come on /and don't resist the fire, 𝗏𝐬𝐴 shouted as he sent another wave of fire towards you. You raised your hands a bit in front of you to shield yourself from the heat, but it just wouldn't go away. The fire grazed your fingers slightly as you jumped back with one knee and hand on the floor. You winced a bit as your slightly burnt hand made contact with the cold wooden floor. Todoroki visibly flinched as he watched you train with his father. Currently you were training with 𝗏𝐬𝐴 because you had asked if he could help you absorb the energy in fire. This training went on for hours, but for some reason you couldn't quite get it. Something inside of you was holding you back, and you knew exactly what it was. You subconsciously grazed a hand over your masked mouth, subtly rubbing the area that had your scars. 𝗏𝐬𝐴 sighed for what seemed like the 10th time. We'll continue you this later, get patched up. He walked up to you, passing by your side to exit the room. I'm disappointed in you 𝐿/N, he sneered as he left the room, slamming the door shut behind him. You got up from the ground and looked at your hands. They were red and warm, and it didn't help that your fingers were still split from the sports festival. A cold hand made its way on your burnt hands and a small layer of ice was formed on your palm all the way up to your fingers. I'm sorry about my dad, Todoroki whispered as he cooled down your hands. He's a bit harsh. His eyebrows furrowed as he kept cooling down your hands. You nodded in agreement, and he gave you a ghost of a smile. A few minutes passed and Todoroki looked down at your hands that were less red and were at a cooler temperature. Satisfied with his work, he gave you a small smile. You took out a notepad. Thank you, but you didn't have to. It's fine, and it seemed like you needed it anyway. I don't want you to get hurt because of my father, he said with a stern look as he glared at the floor. I'll be okay, besides I asked him. Still, he went too far. You walked over to your duffel bag to get some cleansing alcohol and disinfectant wipes to clean your sweat off. You were cut out of your thoughts when 𝗏𝐬𝐴 burst through the door. There seems to be some suspicious activity near the Hosu District Mall, and the pro heroes were requested to arrive at the scene. Other agencies will be there. He gave a stern look, turning his back towards us. This will be your first day as heroes, don't disappoint me. Get into your hero suits and come along. He said, then walked out of the room. You and Todoroki quickly went to change and met 𝗏𝗏𝗏 out of the building as you both trailed behind him, making your way to the mall area. The three of you both patrolled around the area, as you took in the area around you, while 𝗏𝗏𝗏 lectured the both of you. When driven into an undesired life situation where you can't escape, it's better to wait and stall for a bit until the pro heroes come to take care of it. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 grunted a bit, crossing his arm as you and Todoroki trailed behind him. You can't predict the outcome of a battle, but the best decisions need to be made during a fight. Our job as heroes is to protect the citizens and take down the villain. You nodded, taking in the information that was given to you. For a no good but, he says some good. You were cut out of your thoughts when you heard a woman scream, "Help." She cried out as a man ran out of a small cafe with a cash register in his hands. Without a thought, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 rushed into action, jumping on the back of the robber while a few reporters came around the scene. These reporters never take a break, jeez. You grumbled as you and Todoroki walked up to 𝗏𝗏𝗏, who was pinning down the robber on the ground. He groaned in pain as the money was taken out of the cash register and was given back to the woman, who thanked him in response. "Thank you, heroes," she said as you bowed down in front of 𝗏𝗏𝗏, who was immediately bombarded with the reporters. You sighed as you backed away from the scene to avoid as much people as possible. There was way too many people, and the amount of germs that they could be carrying was impossible to imagine. You shivered at the thought, bringing up your hands to rub the sides of your arms, mentally panicking at the amount of people in the area. Todoroki looked at your distraught form as a visible purple aura of dread surrounded you. "Do you want to leave here? He's gonna take a while, so we have some time," he said, pointing a thumb towards an area that didn't have a lot of people and was fairly empty. Nodding your head, you both made your way to an empty bench. You grumbled under your mask and took out a small disinfectant wipe and a bottle of cleansing alcohol and started to clean the bench. Who knows how many goddamn people have sat down here with their disgusting germs? You angrily thought as you roughly scrubbed the bench, while Todoroki watched in amusement. Once you were satisfied with your work, you both sat down, a couple feet of space between you two as you were both engulfed in silence. Not an uncomfortable one, but rather a comforting silence that filled the air between both of you, while you enjoyed the company of one another. "Hey," Todoroki started. "I can't help but be curious." You raised an eyebrow as you looked at him. "Why don't you talk?" Again with the questions, you grumbled to yourself. Todoroki reminded you of a small child. You consistently asked questions that you didn't want to answer. Sighing, you shrugged and took out a notepad. "I prefer not speaking, I like the silence." "But you spoke before. At the sports festival." Slightly getting irritated at his piquing curiosity. I won't push the matter, but I'd like to talk to you more," he said as he lowered his gaze, looking at the ground. "You interest me." You quirked an eyebrow at him, turning your head to see him staring at the ground with a blank expression. You scoffed and crossed your arms in front of your chest. "When the times comes, I'll answer your questions, but as of right now, please don't ask me these personal questions, they irritate me." You wrote down. "Sorry," he said, feeling a bit discouraged by your choice of words. Soon enough, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 came back from the reporters as you both stood up, making your way back to his agency. Today was a good day. You got to patrol the city and see a pro in action. And this continued for the next couple of days, as you and Todoroki were brought with 𝗏𝗏𝗏 to patrol the city. However, one particular day, something felt off to you. As you, Todoroki, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 were patrolling the city, you couldn't help but have an odd feeling in your stomach. Something's off, you thought to yourself as your eyebrows furrowed. Turning around, you caught a thin line of smoke rise, which was followed by a huge explosion. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Todoroki turned around to where you were facing as the smoke became larger and large, surrounding the buildings around the area. "What's going on?" 𝗏𝗏𝗏 yelled as you ran towards a building on fire, only to be face to face with a couple dozen gnomes all around the area, attacking the citizens around them, just like the attack at USJ. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 rushed into the scene to attack the gnomes as you ran towards them, balling up energy between your hands. But before you could attack, you and Todoroki's phones buzzed. Slipping the phone out of your pocket, you looked to see a text from Midoriya. Midoriya location, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. You thought as you turned around and ran towards the direction. Hey! Endeavor yelled after you, but you didn't listen. Midoriya was in trouble, and you had to help. You had faith that Todoroki and Endeavor could handle the 𝗏𝗏. I have a bad feeling about this. You thought, running towards an alleyway, while Todoroki trailed behind you. I'm coming too, he said as he ran beside you. My father can take care of the rest. I know he can. Giving him a nod, you made your way to an alleyway only to be greeted with a BLD scene. In front of you was Ida bleeding out on the floor, along with Midoriya trying to stop a figure in the end of the alleyway, and a pro hero on the floor. Stop! Midoriya yelled out towards the figure as Todoroki sent a wall of fire towards him. 𝗏𝗏 jumped in the air, to avoid the heat. While Todoroki was fighting, he spoke. Midoriya, you need to be more specific next time. He grumbled under his breath, as you gave him a nod in agreement. You lifted 2 fingers and a ball of purple energy was created as you sent a glare towards the figure. He slowly came into light. 𝐻𝗏𝗏. It's hero killer, 𝗏𝗏. You thought to yourself as your glare hardened. With a flick of your wrist you sent the ball of energy towards him, only for him to roll to the side as your attack hit the wall behind him. He's as fast. Please. Todoroki-kun. Why/and send not you guys too? Ida pleaded onto the ground. You looked down at him, giving him a disappointed look, while he lowered his gaze. You knew he had gone behind your back to try and get revenge. You knew he was paralyzed because he was clouded by his own emotions. But that wasn't what was important right now. What was important was the safety of your friends. Ice spread across the areas as it covered 𝗏𝗏, leaving him immobile while you walked forward, sending another ball of energy towards him, grazing his arm, leaving a visible red mark as he hissed in pain. You turned your head to see Native on the floor near a few trash bags. You walked up to him and carried him to a safer part of the alleyway, so that he could avoid getting hurt more. The pros will come soon, Todoroki said as he blocked a few knives that 𝗏𝗏 has thrown towards him. They'll be here in a few minutes. We won't let you kill them, hero killer. Todoroki glared at the male in front of him. Guys, don't let him get your BLD. His quirk, if he licks your BLD you become paralyzed. Midoriya yelled as you turned around, barely dodging a few blades that 𝗏𝗏 sent your way. 𝗏𝗏. This isn't looking good. You grit your teeth as you crouch down on the floor. I need to find a way to touch him without getting cut. You quickly jumped away as a blade slowly made its way towards you. 𝗏𝗏, that was close. But not close enough as it passed you and cut Todoroki's cheek. You have some good friends, 𝗏𝗏 said as he took out his sword coming towards both of you. You jumped out of the way, barely missing his attack as his sword collided with the cement ground where you stood. At this rate we're dead. Ingenium, 𝗏𝗏 said as your eyes widened and looked at Ida, who furrowed his eyebrows. What a dirty little butt, you thought to yourself, glaring at him while you dodged another attack. You're fast, he said towards you, before swinging his swords towards you once more. As soon as you jumped out of the way, his sword was encased with Todoroki's ice. Stop, please. You turned around to see Ida. That guy's. He's mine. I inherited 𝗏𝗏𝐸𝐴𝐻. While he was still on the ground, you walked towards him and slapped him across the face, glaring down at him. He looked at you with a shocked expression, almost reading your mind. I warned you, did I not? He looked down, away from your disappointed gaze, as you scoffed and turned around towards the fight. Midoriya, can you move? Todoroki asked as Midoriya was twitching around, while 𝗏𝗏 sliced through the ice once more. To block your own view against an opponent faster than you. What a dumb plan. He yelled as he threw another set of knives that landed in Todoroki's arm. He grunted in pain as the flames in his hands disappeared. You thought as you turned towards the killer, who gave you a smirk. This is not looking good, 𝐿/N. Think. How the F do I get to him without getting cut? You were cut out of your thoughts as Midoriya got to his feet and went to attack the killer. I can move, he said. A time limit, Todoroki said as he held his arm. No, that kid should have been the last one to get up, 𝗏𝗏 said as he went to swing a sword towards you. Jumping in the air, you dodged his attack, landing as you back turned towards him. You ripped the tips of your gloves as you raised 2 fingers to form another purple orb. I'm not letting him get away that easily. You thought as you flicked your wrist once more, landing a hit on his torso. That should leave him immobile for a while, as steam emitting out of his chest. You're good kid. He grunted in pain as he tried to get up. I think it has to do with BLD type. Midoriya said as he stood up, shaking from Stain's quirk. Bingo. Stain smirked, starting to get up once more from your attack. You got into a stance as Midoriya stood next to you. Todoroki got up as well, BLD dripping from his open wound. Midoriya cracked a knuckle, activating himself quick while running towards Stain, as Todoroki raced alongside him with ice. You took your hands and formed 2 purple orbs of energy in while rushing towards. Midoriya aimed towards Stain and Todoroki used his ice and heat to get to him. You threw the 2 ball of energy towards him as he got hit by one but narrowly dodged the other. He looked at you and smirked, then looked away. Confused, you turned only to see him aim a few knives towards Todoroki. Your eyes widened, and your body started to move itself in front of Todoroki, as the knives embed themselves into the right part of your chest. HD almost missed my goddamn heart. What a dirty trick. He knew one of us would go and try to protect him. 𝐬𝐮𝐻 Ida, Todoroki and Midoriya exclaimed as you crouched down, a knee on the floor and a hand on the knife that was stabbed inside of you. You winced and pulled it out as BLD gushed out of the wound. DMN, that's gonna leave a mark. Ugh, can't believe I let his dirty knife touch me. You thought as you winced in pain. Are you okay? Todoroki asked as he bent down to your side. You gave him a quick nod of reassurance and placed a hand on his shoulder. Please. Stop. Ida pleaded as he looked at your bleeding form, while Midoriya and Todoroki went on to fight Stain. You felt your energy drain you as you slowly got up. Breathing hurt, and it didn't help that you didn't get enough energy. If you were to use your quirk once more, you'd have to start using your own energy, and that's no good. You managed to grasp against a dirty wall and look at the scene in front of you. Todoroki blasted him ice towards Stain while Midoriya aimed his quirk towards the hero killer as well. You sharply inhaled as you placed a hand over your chest. Demon, my lung definitely got pierced. You thought as you looked at Ida, who was slowly getting up. Attaboy. You thought as you smiled under your mask. Recipro. First. Ida yelled as he kicked downwards towards Stain, who let go of his 2 swords, and aimed a leg towards Stain, who jumped at the very last minute to dodge it. Ida. Midoriya yelled. Ida spoke. This has nothing to do with you 3. And I'm sorry. Ida said, bending high back downwards. I won't allow you 3 to bleed any more for me. He then turned towards me and gave me a bow. And 𝐬𝐿. I'm sorry I didn't listen to your advice earlier, and because of me you're hurt. He gave you a sad, soft expression as he walked towards you. You waved him off, signaling it that it was okay as you clutched the areas above your wound. You're okay, but 𝐬𝐿 that 𝗧𝗜𝗧𝗟𝗘 hurt. You thought to yourself as you winced in pain while you inhaled air. You will never be anything but a fake who prioritizes his own selfish desires. You're a cancer who warps the few of so-called heroes. Stain yelled. Don't listen to him. Todoroki yelled. He has the logic of a murderer. No, he's right. I have no right to call myself a hero. Ida shook his head. But even so, I can't give in or Ingenium will die. Stain grumbled in annoyance as he launched forward, only to be blown back by your purple orb. You smirked under your mask as you gripped the cloth around your wound. Shit, I'm gonna regret this soon. Don't fight. Let the pros handle this. Native said as he gained back consciousness. To meddle in business you're clearly not a part of. That's what makes a hero. Stain said as he launched another set of knives towards you. You jumped backwards, landing on your feet, hissing in pain as you sharply inhaled. 𝐬𝐿. Midoriya said, running to your side, placing both hands on your shoulders. Are you okay? You're bleeding an awful lot. You waved him off as you glared at Todoroki and Ida fighting Stain in front of you. I'm at my limit. My energy source is about to run low. But you were cut out of your thoughts as you saw a group of pro-heroes make their way towards you and fight Stain. Your vision was blurred and you couldn't quite make out what was going on, but in the corner of your eye you saw a 𝗏𝐽 about to attack an unexpected Midoriya. I'm gonna regret this, you said as you straightened your back and created a large ball of purple energy, a bit bigger than the one you used against the 𝗏𝐽 that was at. This will do, you thought to yourself, raising your hand. Once it was big enough, you felt all of your energy drain out of your body. Your eyes started to see black orbs cloud your vision. With your leftover energy you reeled back your arm and threw it towards the 𝗏𝐽 who disintegrated from your attack. Ugh, finally I can sleep, you thought as you felt the world go sideways, collapsing. 𝐬/N. You heard a group of voices yell out until you let yourself emerge in darkness. When is she going to wake up? Midoriya asked. It had been a couple days since their fight with 𝗀𝗡, and Todoroki, Midoriya, and Iida were all discharged from the hospital after their talk with 𝗬𝗓𝗍, and Endeavor taking full responsibility over their encounter with 𝗀𝗡. However, 𝐬/N wasn't waking up. She's been out for almost 4 days, Iida said, looking down at the 𝗏/C girl that was sleeping soundly, and 4 in her arm and a medical mask to cover her face. This is all my fault, Iida said, sitting down on a chair beside the bed, covering his face with his hands. No, Iida-chan, calm down. The doctor said it's just a drawback from her quirk. She'll wake up soon, Midoriya said, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Todoroki stood in front of her sleeping form. She looked so peaceful, so content with life. Her 𝗏/C hair, her closed eyes that held bright 𝐸/C eyes, and the distant inhale and exhale, indicating that she was still breathing. He took a strand of her hair and held it to his cheek. Please be okay, he thought to himself, closing his eyes as the familiar scent of strawberry milk and rubbing alcohol entered his nose. Midoriya and Iida watched from a distance, a foreign feeling lingering in their chest as they watched the dual-hair boy caressing the girl's hair as she slept soundly. Looking at another man gently looking down at you with such kindness, making them feel uneasy. Their thoughts were cut off by the door opening, revealing a middle-aged couple. 𝐿/N-san, Midoriya exclaimed as the 3 boys bowed down to the girl's parents. Midoriya and Todoroki lifted their heads while Iida kept bowing. I'm so sorry because of me. Your daughter 𝐬/N. She's. Don't worry about it, Iida-san, the dad said as he gave him a small closed-eyed smile. But she's okay, don't worry. The doctor said that she'll wake up soon, and the cut in her lung wasn't severe, so it was fixed with a little surgery. She's just asleep because she ran out of energy, the girl's mom said, waving her hand. It's really nice to meet you, Energizer and Lacuna, Midoriya said with sparkles in his eyes. Energizer, 𝐬/N's father, had a quirk that allowed him to transfer energy from one thing to another, while Lacuna, 𝐬/N's mother, had a quirk that allowed her to create beams using her own energy, thus making the pair some of the top 10 heroes. Wow, it's been a while since people recognized us, 𝐬/N's father chuckled as the couple made their way to the side of her bed. Her mother caressed her daughter's cheek, looking at her with a loving gaze while her father moved strands of hair from her face. Todoroki looked at the couple in awe. He knew that they were in a quirk marriage, but they looked so in love. Nothing like his parents, and a part of him yearned for that type of affection that your parents shared with each other and you. I'd actually like to thank you guys, Energizer said. The 3 looked at him with a confused face. What type of father thanks the people that dragged her into a fight, resulting in her being in a sleep-induced coma? We've always wanted her to be a hero, 𝐬/N's father spoke. As you guys can tell, she has a powerful quirk, but she never really uses it. She's been through a lot and she doesn't have friends to call her own. I'm sure you guys are dying to know more about her. 𝐬/N's mother chuckled, looking down at her daughter's masked face. But when the time is right, I know she'll open up to you guys more. It may not look like it, but she's a very fragile girl. Ever since she went to UA, she's been opening up more, and even started to talk, her father said, turning to look at the boys. I don't know what you guys have done, but I'm truly grateful for you. She's starting to change bit by bit, and this fight with the hero killer just proves it. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I know deep down she wants to be a hero. She just needs a little push. I know she can be a bit stubborn, and I know she always keeps to herself, but thank you for letting her break out of her shell bit by bit. Her father continued walking up to the boys and placing a hand on Todoroki's shoulders and Ida's while Midoriya stood in the middle. I want to thank you for being so nice to our daughter. Please take care of her. We will 𝐿/N-san. Midoriya said with a determined look while Ida and Todoroki nodded. 𝐻/N's mother and father shared a wide smile looking at the boys. Thank you. A few others had arrived to greet the girl, such as Kirishima, Denki, Mina, Siro, Uraraka, and Ojiro. They chatted with Todoroki, Midoriya, and Ida while bringing some get-well gifts for them. The day was filled with laughter and happiness, and it ended with people leaving the hospital one by one. Are you sure you want to stay behind Kirishima? Denki asked as it was only the two of them that were left. Yeah, I'll be fine. My mom won't come back until later, I just want to stay a bit more. Kirishima said, rubbing the back of his neck with a small blush dusting his cheek. Denki's eyebrows furrowed a bit, slightly disappointed that his mother had called him to come home earlier, but he shrugged it off and left, waving at the red-haired male before leaving the room. Kirishima looked back down at the sleeping girl. His smile faltered as he lowered his gaze to see her inhaling and exhaling through her mask. He placed his hands on his face, his body slightly shaking. God, I was so worried. He breathed out as he tried to calm down his beating heart. Truth be told, when he had heard the news, he wanted to rush to the hospital, but he was caught up in his internship that he wasn't able to visit you until now. He wished that he had come on that mission, so that he could protect you from stain, so that maybe you wouldn't be sleeping in a hospital bed in front of him. He clenched his fists on his lap and he raised a hand to grab a strand of hair, playing with it gently between his fingers. During the past couple weeks he had known her, he noticed that despite the cold, distant demeanor that she had set off, she had a soft inside. She was gentle and kind, just confused was all. She could have declined his offer to help with training, but she agreed anyways, despite her hatred of germs. Or the way that sometimes after training, she would decline his food offer and just walk home with him. Or how whenever he had gotten hurt from training, she would immediately go over to him and disinfect his wound. Maybe it was just in the moment, but Kirishima couldn't help but listen to his beating heart, thinking back at the moments they spent together. The time she first spoke to him, he was her first, and pride swelled in his chest, thinking that she had trusted him enough to speak to him, and only him. He would be lying if he said that he wasn't a bit disappointed when you started to converse bit by bit with the others, but he reminded himself that she needed this, and he pushed down his envy. Looking back at her calm face, he wondered how she looked like without her mask, what secrets she had, and he wanted to know all of them. Maybe he was being selfish, but he couldn't help it. She was so mysterious, so secretive, and as a human, you're always drawn towards what is unknown to you. Maybe that's why so many people were infatuated with her. Sighing, he looked down to see her gloved hand that had a 4-tube attached to the middle of her forearm. He hesitated but gentle held it in his hands. A small smile formed on his lips as he tried to transfer his warmth to your cold-covered hands. I'm still waiting, he whispered. I'll wait as long as I need, I want to know you more. He felt her hand twitch a bit. With wide eyes he looked at the 𝐻/C girl's face to still see her sleeping. But he took it as a sign that she was slowly gaining consciousness. His smile widened as he gave her hand a squeeze. Once again he was the first. You slowly opened your eyes, taking a sharp inhale, before you clenched your eyes shut and groaned in pain. 𝐻T, my chest hurts like a beach. You thought to yourself as you slowed down your breath. Struggling to sit up, you glanced out the hospital window. It was dark with a peeling moon illuminating the walls of the hospital bed. The stars glittered the sky as you let out a sigh of happiness. It truly was an appealing sight. Turning your head you looked to see the clock. It's 2:34. You read, then turned to the side to see your nightstand covered with get-well cards, gifts, bottles of rubbing alcohol and hand sanitizer, and wrapped-up sweets. One item did catch your eye. It was in a white plastic bag. Slowly reaching towards it, you grabbed it, only to see a styrofoam container. It's a sticky note on it. You carefully took the sticky note off of the container and read it. Hey, I heard about what happened at Hosu. You were so manly. I bought you some favorite food, make sure to eat it once you wake up, okay? Kirishima Ijuru. You let out a soft chuckle as you read the note, smiling to yourself as the smell of the contents inside made its way to your nose. You slowly took it out of the bag and opened it. Tugging your medical mask down, you took the pair of chopsticks that were in the bag and slowly started to eat. You really needed an energy boost after that fight. You mentally thanked Kirishima for bringing you food. As you were eating, you read all of the cards and looked through all the gifts you received from your classmates. You felt a small smile tug of your lips. They're not that bad. You thought, taking another bite of food. Maybe I could allow myself to have a few friends. Oh, you're awake. 𝐬/N turned around to see a familiar ash blonde that was standing at her room door. Giving him a quick nod in response, he muttered under his breath and closed the door behind him. Idiot, you didn't have to jump in front of that half and half BS. He could have taken care of himself. He grumbled under his breath as he roughly took a stool beside the bed and sat down, a white plastic bag in his hand. The girl tilted her head in confusion looking at the bag in his hand. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 looked away before shoving the bag to her. A small tint of blush gently brushed across his cheek. Shitty hair told me you like favorite snack, and they had a sale at the store on the way here. He said, glaring at the ground, shoving his hands in his pockets to hide his embarrassment. 𝐬/N took the bag and opened it to look at the contents within. Inside was indeed her favorite snack, along with a box of medical masks, medical tape, and a bottle of hand sanitizer. On top of the box of masks was a small sticky note. Get better so I can beat you and be number one clean freak, 𝐻𝐿𝐴. 𝐬/N let out a low chuckle as she placed the bag to the side of the bed and taking out a notepad from the hospital nightstand. Don't laugh at me. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 snarled as he watched the girl write. I didn't do it for you. I need you in top condition if I want to beat you. Thank you, I really appreciate it. She wrote down. He said as he looked away, avoiding the 𝐻/C girl's gaze. Her bright 𝐒/C eyes shined from the sunlight, but that was all that was shown. The rest was covered up with a pale blue medical mask. He internally grumbled, slightly wishing to see more of her face, to take off the mask and see who 𝐬/N really was, and how she looked like. But he knew better, and he wasn't going to make the same mistake Todoroki made. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 slid a notebook on her bed towards her. She looked at it with interest, wondering what it was until he spoke. Stupid Deku wanted me to send you his class notes, since we have an exam coming up. We have a summer training camp after, make sure to pass it so I can beat you. Despite his harsh words, he meant what he said. He was actually looking forward to the training camp and spending time with the girl. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 looked up to her, her calm demeanor, her aloof personality, the way that she could stay so calm, regardless of what type of situation she was placed in. Even at the sports festival, even though he was beat, he admired her for giving him her all during their fight. But that didn't stop him from trying his best to be the number one hero he aimed to be. He was cut out of his thoughts when he heard the door slide open. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 and 𝐬/N turned to see a familiar tuft of red and white. 𝐻𝐿𝐴. Todoroki breathed out as he walked into the room looking at the two in front of him. 𝐶𝐮, what are you doing here, icy hot? 𝐻𝐿𝐴 sneered. I came to see 𝐿/N. Todoroki replied as he sat on the opposite side of the bed, facing 𝐻𝐿𝐴. He turned his head facing the 𝐻/C haired girl. How are you feeling, 𝐿/N? I'm glad to see you're awake. Todoroki said as his eyes softened. I'm alright. She wrote down, you both didn't have to come. I just happened to walk by. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 muttered. I wanted to thank you for jumping in front of me. Todoroki said, giving her a small smile before it turned into a frown. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 glared daggers at the male sitting opposite from him. It was dangerous, though, please don't say that again. Todoroki said sternly. The girl nodded in response as Todoroki's frown softened up into a smile. The two boys got up from their seats, bidding goodbye to the girl, and Todoroki closed the door, turning around only to be met with a pair of bright red eyes glaring harshly at him. You didn't protect her, 𝐻𝐿𝐴 said harshly. Now look, she was in a sleep-induced coma for 5 days with a pierced lung. It was a spur in the moment. Todoroki returned the glare. It couldn't control what happened. If I had known, I would have done whatever I can to protect her. Well, you didn't. 𝐻𝐿𝐴 snapped back, raising a fist to grab the collar of the dual-haired boy's shirt. The situation was out of control, And before I knew it, she passed the limit of her quirk and collapsed. Todoroki said, glaring a bit harsher. I didn't know what to do, you wouldn't have known either if you were there. Bakugo let go of Todoroki's collar, then slammed a fist on the wall next to his head. Turning around, he went to walk away, stopping for a moment before looking back. You're right, I wouldn't know, he said, then turning his head back to face what was in front of him, shoving his hands in his pockets. But I would have done whatever it took to keep her out of harm's way.